Roll call.
Parker. Here. Miscelinich.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Zittergruen.
Here.
Chisel.
Here.
Whittle.
Here.
Neal.
Here.
Public comment. There's people who want to speak at this time. Come to the podium. You have 3 minutes. Anybody who?
Do you want me to give a 10-second warning as they're coming
Yes,
up on
please.
it? Okay.
Oh, and make sure that you state your name and your address. Okay.
Hi, I'm Shanna Putnam Dibble. I live
Can you
at
pull the microphone up closer to you?
kind of tall.
There,
Okay.
that's much better, thank you.
All right. Good evening. I'm Shanna Putnam Dibble. I live at 2524 GK Avenue here in Decorah, Iowa. Do I get a warning when we get to like 1 minute?
10 seconds, I'll let you know.
You'll give me a 10-second. Okay, so ready and go? Okay. Hello. I've lived in this community for the majority of my life. I went away to college, but chose to return to raise my family in this place that I love. For the past 10 years, I have served as an educator in our district, and for the past 3 years, I have served as an administrator for our school district. This year as principal at Westside and as special ed director. My greatest passions, as hopefully you know, I'm a crier, you guys, sorry. Are early childhood and elementary education, as well as strengthening family and community engagement and safety for all. With that being said, I volunteer throughout our community in a variety of different areas. One of my greatest honors was serving on the facilities committee, as well as the Vote Yes committee for this elementary school. I stand here this evening in the continued support of the plans for the new elementary school and to encourage the City Council to approve the site plan that has already been thoroughly reviewed and approved by the Safety and Zoning Committee. As you consider your vote, I urge you to keep at the forefront that we're building a school, foremost for our youngest learners to be engaged, to be safe, and to find joy in their learning every day. We are here for our students, for their families, and for our educators, and we need to keep that at the center of everything that we do. There have been disagreements about this plan, as there always are. No plan will satisfy everyone perfectly, but our architects, our educators, many here tonight, and school board have worked diligently to make sure that we are thoughtful and addressing community concerns and doing what's best to create the greatest educational environment we can for our students. We have discussed the fencing, which is required for preschool. And if you talk to any of these educators here, you'll know why it's important for TK through 2nd grade. It's essential for the safety of our students. We have discussed parking. Please remember that a building of this size has more than 65 staff members alone. In addition to that, we have tons of community members coming to our schools to support our students and partly to engage our community, which is exactly what we want to do. We want to build these bridges with all of you. We've discussed the size of the gym, green space. It is a bigger gym than initially proposed, but not big enough to be a make or break. We've talked a lot about school safety, but I encourage you to think about the people in this room, the people who have been part of these conversations, our administrators, our educators. They're the people who show up every single day when we have an increase in gun violence, violence and aggressive students. They're the ones showing up every day and meeting these threats head on. I encourage that we listen to their recommendations and believe in what they're saying. While disagreements always exist, I ask us to return to what matters most, our youngest learners, and the responsibility we share to build the best school that we can for them.
10 seconds.
We needed the school yesterday. Delays will have significant ramifications, both financially, due to the rising cost of construction, and our students and educators continuing to go to school where it's no longer adequate. This year alone, Westside faced boiler problems, flooding, other things. I often say it takes a village to raise a Viking. Tonight, I ask you to be part of that village. Please approve the site plan, continue to strengthen the bridge of our schools, and they're quite literally the future of Decorah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Next. Looking and hearing none. City manager, department head, and council reports. City manager.
All right, so, excuse me. I don't have much to report at this time. IEDA will be meeting on Friday to discuss our CAC grant application. So myself, Mark Holte, and Stephanie Fromm will be headed to Des Moines to talk with their board about our potential project. And so that's the best news I have to report.
Carrie.
I'm going to take this opportunity, since we have so many people here, that with the new water meters with the water meter software that we've done, I encourage people that have the new water meters installed to go onto the website Eye on Water and sign up, because you'll be able to see your usage from monthly, weekly, daily, and hourly. And this will give you notifications if there's any leaks, because if anybody's had one, they know they can be extremely costly. So I just want to put that plug in to get people started enrolling in that.
Brent,
I do not have anything to report.
Christopher,
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Kirsten.
I get my mic on. Two things tonight. I got a call from PT Cup the other day. He's the gentleman that's been doing the murals underneath the bridge, the College Drive Bridge. He has completed the last, or the main one on there, whatever. It shows the history of biking. If you haven't been down there to see it, it looks fabulous, just like the other ones did. And just, if you see Pete out and about, or you know who he is, please tell him thanks for the job well done. The second thing was, my wife and I attended the play Chicago over the weekend at the high school. And it never ceases to amaze me when I go to these events here in our town, the quality and just how good these people are that perform these in these plays and things like that. The talent levels is outstanding. And if you happen to have missed it, make sure you don't miss any of the other ones, because everyone is just as good as the next one. So congratulations to the people that performed in that. It was outstanding.
Thank you. Steve.
Just to say that with next week being Thanksgiving, I wish a very happy Thanksgiving to my colleagues and to all the staff who serve this city. I think, we try to say thanks to various departments and staff members all the time up here, but I think it's true that just as a community, we don't think often enough about how great it is that we often go days at a time without thinking about our local government. And that's because our water works and our toilets flush and our streets function well, and that's a testament to the dozens and dozens of hardworking employees that we have in this community. So I'll just say a special Thanksgiving thank you to them, and wish you all safe travels and good times with those you love.
Thank you. Randy.
I have nothing this evening, Mayor.
Cody.
Just thank you to everyone who showed up for the last election to vote in your.
Cody, you want to go closer to the mic,
Sorry.
please?
Yep. Just thanks to everyone who showed up to vote in this last election. There were a couple big things that were on it, and it's just very important for people to get out there and voice their opinion on things. And yeah, just thanks to the community.
Thank you. Emily.
The problem with going last. So I'm like, yep,
Next-
echo
okay.
Kirsten, echo Steve, echo.
I'll start with, I tell you what,
No, it's okay. It's fine.
I'll start with you first next time.
It's all right. I do want to echo the thank you to all city employees and a recognition of Thanksgiving next week, and a time to reflect on all that we have in the world, and to continue to open our hearts to those who are struggling, and the many ways that we can do that locally, including continuing to give to the food pantry. We plugged that last time, but can't plug it enough. So thinking about that, Chicago was awesome. And thank you, everyone who supported the library bond. And as far as the municipal fire station bond, we will get back at it, and we will put something forth again. So thank you to everyone for the feedback on that bond as well.
Okay. I'm going to take a minute. I don't usually do this, but I want to send my condolences to Josh Dansdale's family, to the friends of this community. I don't believe the community really realized the value that he gave to our community through his grant writing skills. He will be sorely missed, and it touches all our hearts as fast as he went.
Thank you, Mayor.
Consent agenda.
Item A, minutes of the November 3rd, 2025 council meeting. B, claims. C, Decorah 2025 Highway Street Improvements Project Pay Application Number 6. D, Decorah Water Meter Project Pay Application Number 3. E, reappointment Sue Sander to the Board of Adjustment. F, reappointment Jim Martin Tram to the Sustainability Commission. G, appoint Peggy Swigart to Decorah Human Rights Board. H, reappoint Pete Marceau, Airport Commission. I, reappoint Steve Rundy to Civil Service Commission. J, fiscal year 2025 annual financial report. K, fiscal year 2025 street finance report. L, fiscal year 2025 urban renewal report. M, accept bid from Jake Hubden for agricultural land lease at Decorah Municipal Airport. N, resolution obligating funds from Urban Renewal Revenue Fund to Rebound Hospitality FY27 payment for tax increment financed obligations in the amount of $129,968. O, resolution obligating funds from Urban Renewal Revenue Fund to Deco Bluffs FY27 payment for tax increment financed obligation in the amount of $18,586. P, resolution obligating funds from Urban Renewal Revenue Fund to Skyline Motorsports FY27 payment for tax increment financed obligation in the amount of $16,877. Q, resolution obligating funds from the Urban Renewal Revenue Fund to Brenton Holdings FY27 payment for tax increment financed obligation in the amount of $52,729. R, resolution obligating funds from Urban Renewal Revenue Fund to Decorah Auto Center FY27 payment for tax increment financed obligation in the amount of $20,713. And S, resolution obligating funds from Urban Renewal Revenue Fund to WSSA for fiscal year 27 payment for tax increment financed obligation in the amount of $141,298.
I just want to make a note that Peggy Swigart's last name is spelled as it has been in the drop box for her application, which is SWIGHART,
Oh, instead of Sygert.
I believe. So, okay.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Olson, seconded by Neal. Any further discussion? Seeing, hearing none. Roll call.
Olson.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Misselinich. Zittergruen. Chisel.
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Motion carried. Site plan review regarding Taco Bell. Can you give the background on that, please?
Sure. I'll give background, and then if somebody is either in the room or on Zoom, if you could do the raise hand emoji or raise your hand. I've got a bit of a full room, both virtually and in person. There we go. We've got one on Zoom. Shannon. So the city received an application from Marvin Development 6 LLC for the construction of a Taco Bell on lots F and J in the 2000 block of Iowa 9. This is the lot east of Fairfield Inn and Suites. City Code Section 17.36.020 requires that the proposed development submit a site plan for review by the Planning and Zoning Commission and a recommendation made to the City Council. The city engineers provided their review, and the full letters included in Dropbox as File 6B. Summarized are item 1, applicant's not shown as owner of record, so applicant would need to be the legal owner before the start of the project. 2, site plan does not include physical address. Plans need to show city address once assigned. 3, access to site from Iowa 9 frontage road and off Short Street south via an existing parking lot, so they need to verify access easement on their site plan. Item 4, sidewalks are not shown in the site plan, but may be required by council. Sidewalks are existing west of the site along the frontage road through the Fairfield Inn parking lot. This would be along the south side of the frontage road, but north of the parking area. So that's where staff would recommend, if that was a contingency, that's where they should go. And then items 5 and 6 are kind of catch-alls. All signage must be approved by the zoning administrator. And then 6, applicant responsible for obtaining all necessary permits. So staff does recommend any consideration of the site plan be contingent upon items 1, 2, 3, and 4 listed above. Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval contingent upon those same 4.
Motion to approve the site plan contingent upon items 1, 2, and 3, and 4 listed.
Okay.
Motion-
Sorry, go ahead, Mayor.
Motion made by Olson, seconded by Ms. Lineage. Discussion?
I'm curious, both Ko and Christopher, are you all interested in adding a contingency for the sidewalk on the north end?
I think that's part of it, isn't it? Sidewalks are not shown in the site plan, but
Well,
maybe
it says-
required by council.
So I just want to make it clear that fourth thing says
Okay.
may be required by council.
Okay.
If your understanding is that your motion is that it's required by council, I just want to make sure that that's clear.
That would be part of my motion, yes. Have that,
Okay, great. Well, then I'm in support
Sidewalk
of the
fee.
motion.
Yep.
Travis, is that good enough for us?
Thank you. I wanted that clarification.
okay,
Great.
good.
I saw the other day that Taco Bell was removing potato-based products and the quesarito from the menu, so I'm not quite so sure about this anymore, but I still think we should press ahead.
That's why we need sidewalks, so you can walk.
I'm in support.
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call?
Olson,
Aye.
Misselinich. Aye. Zittergruen,
Aye.
Chisel,
Aye.
Whittle,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Motion carried. Discussion and possible action regarding the 28E agreement for joint administration of tennis courts. Can you give that background, please?
Sure. So the city of Decorah currently has a 20D agreement with the Decorah Community School District for the joint administration of tennis courts on Claiborne Drive that was entered into and shortly thereafter amended in 2011. That's included in Dropbox as File 7B. The agreement is for 15 years and expires September 30, 2026. The contract has automatic 5-year renewals unless either party notifies the other in writing by March 1st, and then the agreement would expire that following June 1st. The 2080 agreement can only be terminated or amended by a written agreement of both parties. So the school is requesting that the city terminate the current 2080 agreement and adopt a new 2080 agreement, which is included in Dropbox as File 7A, to allow for the current tennis courts to be removed for the construction of the new early elementary school building, with subsequent construction of new tennis courts to be constructed in the current John Klein Elementary location. The proposed agreement retains many of the current agreement elements, including the initial duration of 15 years, which would expire December 1, 2040, with 5-year automatic renewals unless otherwise, again, provided written notice. The agreement would also require the city to reimburse the school annually for 50% of normal maintenance associated with maintaining the tennis courts, including but not limited to playing surfaces, fencing, and striping. This is similar to the current agreement, but the current agreement requires all maintenance and repair costs associated with the tennis courts shall be divided equally between the school and the city, where the superintendent and the Parks and Recreation Director shall consult and determine the expenses that are necessary and appropriate and recommend approval of such expenses from the city or the school. So it's a little different language there. The proposed agreement further requires the school to install lighting within 3 years of construction completion of the tennis courts at their cost. However, once installed, the city will be responsible for the electrical costs associated with the lights. The proposed agreement has a clause that reads, "This agreement shall be null and void if the Decorah City Council has not approved the district site plan for the new elementary school by January 1, 2026. Let me catch my breath. That was a lot.
Okay,
All right, so a couple things I additionally want to point out to council for consideration. So in addition to these potential costs, the city of Decorah, we have the Decorah Athletic Complex, which is going to be constructed with 8 pickleball courts and planned lighting on those as well. So we are going to have 100% of the costs associated with those pickleball courts and the lighting out there. That needs to be taken into consideration as part of, with this 2080 agreement. That's additional costs that we need to keep in mind that as our budget gets smaller and smaller, I don't know that I would recommend to council that we agree to half the maintenance costs, especially when we can't have an input on what those maintenance costs are. So that clause says we just reimburse the school for half of its maintenance costs. I would not recommend that. And then as far as the electrical, 100% of the lighting, you know, honestly, that's up to council whether we want to pay for that in the city, but we do intend to have the lighting out at the pickleball courts as well. So something else to keep in mind.
discussion.
Do you have a recommendation on how that would be reworded?
Can you repeat that? Thank you. Sorry.
Do you have a recommendation on how that possibly could be reworded?
I don't, other than, no offense, Mark, but I wouldn't put it on Mark either. With it being the superintendent, I would say maybe the superintendent and the city manager, something to that degree. But even then, I would still be very leery because we are going to have our own facilities that we created, largely because an earlier attempted partnership for a shared project fell apart. And so we went our own way with the 8 pickleball courts out there.
Can you provide more background on that?
So the council's talked about this before. Way back when we were talking about the land sale between the city and the school. The city and the school and Luther College were working towards a potential racket complex, if you will, that added additional tennis courts, dedicated pickleball courts, and lighting up to the current site of Luther College. And so as those conversations progressed, Luther College, and then I was forwarded an email from Luther, from the school that said the school board had determined that they wanted to put the tennis courts back on the Hively Island, and so they were no longer interested in participating in that discussion moving forward. So that's when we went with the Decorah Athletic Complex route.
I mean, I think this is like many of the discussions we're going to have tonight, difficult to weigh in on because it's a set of unfortunate circumstances that led us here that I think isn't always in the best interest of Decorah, but we have to be financially smart here with what we have extended ourselves to be able to support. And I am concerned that to agree to this particular agreement, we will extend ourselves in a way that doesn't allow us to make the appropriate calls for what we can and can't budget for, especially when it comes to park and rec decisions. I am keenly interested, given that the county, this also would serve the county, right? I mean, when we think about 33% of 38.5% of park rec users also being in the county, that maybe the district approaching the county in a partnership in this manner might help spread those costs so that Decorah residents aren't asking to bear the cost of this. I think we've heard loud and clear, right? Costs are something we really need to be considering, and to me, this might not meet the bar of what we can afford right now, given that we have put our eggs in a basket at the athletic complex, like you said, when the school district walked away from the partnership that had been talked of earlier.
I guess I would kind of agree with what Emily just said. It seems like the citizens of Decorah bear the cost twice in this because they're part of the school district as well, but the money gets spread out, across a wider spectrum when you include the school board in it. So I think the suggestion of perhaps pursuing a county investment in this property or into this, the tennis courts and stuff like that would be a worthwhile avenue to go down. As Emily just mentioned, or I brought up the fact that 38.5% of the people that use our park rec facilities here come from outside the city of Decorah, but within the county. And like I said, the citizens of Decorah bear most of the cost for these things. So I think that would be an avenue of pursuit.
I'm not in favor of the agreement as written. I think we have to take staff's concerns seriously. And so, it seems like that's probably the direction of things. I can appreciate the desire to sort of replace the current language with substantially similar language, few changes. But the situation has changed from when the current 28E agreement regarding the tennis courts was come to. There's different facilities. There's a different relationship in terms of city efforts to develop a joint racket sports complex with the school district and other partners. I think that, I hope that like is probably true in many other communities, the school district recognizes that having facilities that when they're not in use by the school are open for other members of the tax-paying public who support the school, that's a good in itself, and it doesn't need disproportionate buy-in from city taxpayers to make it possible. I think the appropriate taxing authority to cover the costs of any tennis courts that are on the site, including their ongoing maintenance and electricity to light them, I think the appropriate taxing entity is the one that taxes all the people who benefit from the tennis courts. And that taxing entity is not the city, it's the school, maybe the school in partnership with the county. And so I want to echo the sentiments of some of my colleagues who've said that. And I don't want to move forward with this. And I especially don't think it's smart of us. I would strongly urge us not to consider moving forward with entering into an agreement that has a clause in it that insists on an unrelated result for a site plan review process. I don't think it's a good idea to entertain clauses that tie our hands.
Other council? Speak up or I'm going to one, so.
I just want to speak to the fact that it's.
Thank you.
I've heard from several tennis folks in town that strongly wanting the lighting, which is in there, obviously, as to 3 years after it's put in. There's going to be a community usage of it. So I think that it's fair to pay, the public usage for it. I think that the town can pay towards some of the things, but I don't want it to be more than necessary. As it was stated before, times are hard for a community. We get funding cut all the time, and but I do want to say that it will be used both by the school and the public. And I know that there are new pickleball courts going out in the athletic complex, but that doesn't speak to the tennis users, which there are a lot of, and I've heard from them as well. So I think that the wording could be changed a little bit in this, but I feel as long as the school is putting in the lighting necessary for it, I think that the town could pay for the usage partially, as it's going to be used by the public, and that's what we want for this space, is to be used both by the school and by the city of Decorah residents. So, so I think that there could be some wording differences, but I'm not huge against, paying for part of it.
Can I hear from the other city council people
Yes, you can.
first?
Yep.
No, I'm talking to Emily.
Oh,
She
I
looks like
gotcha.
she's
Oh, yeah.
ready to.
Oh, I wasn't actually committed yet.
Okay.
That's
okay,
all.
I was
thank
actually
you.
just sort of thinking.
Hey,
yeah.
thank you. Rand, okay, sorry, Cody.
No, that's okay. For now, that's all I have to say about it.
Randy?
Oh, I'm not in favor of this. We didn't ask for any assistance when we put in the pickleball courts that's used by everybody. We heard that was the biggest sport with young kids. They want to all play it, so I think we each take care of our own and provide a service to the community.
Personally, I would agree with a lot of the sentiments that have already been shared. I feel like, one of the main things is that we are going to have a new cost when it comes to the athletic complex, and then potentially having to share in that additional cost with the tennis courts, especially when our budgets are shrinking. I think we need to have careful consideration on that, especially as we move forward.
Brent?
Yeah, so like I said, I kind of asked some questions at the beginning, but with staff's concern on it, I don't think that is probably a good idea. And I think Steve probably definitely put it together best for me and my, how I would look at it as far as like the Decorah taxpayer kind of disproportionately paying for that, and it should go to the proper taxing authority, which would be the school district. So I really do believe that as well.
In terms of costs associated with upkeep, what are we looking at? Like resurfacing when it comes time for it?
So it lists out a couple of examples in the proposed agreement of including but not limited to playing surfaces, fencing, and striping, but does also refer to them as normal maintenance associated with annually for 50% of the normal maintenance associated with maintaining the tennis courts. So with that ambiguity as well, my concern is, and I don't know that this is the school's intent, I would like to think it's not, but I don't think we should be paying for 50% of staff time associated with it. As the current agreement is, you know, that hasn't been in part of that split, where whether it's our staff doing stuff there or school staff doing stuff there, we're not splitting those costs. That's where I definitely think there needs to, at a minimum, be language. Again, I'm not proposing nor even recommending, quite frankly, that we share in the maintenance costs associated with the tennis courts as part of the site plan. But at a minimum, that language needs to be stronger so we can help control what our annual costs are going to be, not just we shall reimburse.
Yeah. You have anything?
No.
Okay.
Travis, I'm not hearing 4 votes, so I guess table it, just turn it down. What do you want?
So
Like,
I'm
what's
not-
the clearest way forward here?
I would agree with you. I'm not hearing 4 votes in the affirmative, even with language changes. If you want to, now it can't always come back as long as it's different. So if you want to vote this one down, right, John? You would agree, council rules. So as long as it's substantially different from the proposed 2080, you could vote this one down. But I would articulate for staff's sake, if there is interest in a 2080, what's in it? What do you want staff to consider as a potential new 2080 agreement is drafted, if that's what the council wants to do?
I've got a question for you. Do they have to vote down the current 28E agreement and then vote also on the one that's recommended?
I was just looking at the agenda title and how it's phrased. So, a discussion and possible action regarding 28E agreement for the joint administration of tennis courts. Now, this was meant on the proposed, on the draft, which by adoption has a clause that terminates the existing 2080 agreement. John, would you say a separate independent action could be on the existing 2080 because of the vagueness of the title?
Yes, I think it needs to be, terminate the existing one and adopt the new one if that's what the council
Okay.
wanted to do.
Correct, but my question is, I was trying to somewhat sidebar, but it's kind of hard to do with a room this full. Could the council, if they said, you know what, we don't want to consider this 2080 agreement as it stands today, but we're willing to address the current 2080 agreement, could they do that under this agenda item on the way it's phrased?
Can we, but we could also entertain that at a later date. We
You
wouldn't have
could,
to do it tonight.
yes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to deal with this agreement and then have a separate agenda item on a later date on our current agreement.
I mean, if we do nothing, the current 2080 is still in
It still
effect.
exists,
Correct.
right.
Yeah, that's why I don't really want to
Yeah.
do anything with that yet.
That helps clarify, I think. When is the end date of the current agreement?
September 2026.
Gotcha, okay.
Mayor, I feel like a lot of our potential actions on this 28E might be contingent on the results of our next discussion. And I wonder if having a little more conversation about where we want to go from here after that would make more sense. What do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Do you feel like we can't make, I feel like we're pretty clear on this proposed 2080 agreement. I mean, I think it's a financial
vote it down,
decision.
that's
I mean, it's a financial decision. I don't know that we can afford this right now. We have to think broadly. But also, I'm not sure that there aren't other 2080 agreements that we might want to consider in terms of community space for tennis. So as we look at our options, I guess I don't really want to commit ourselves to options here right now.
So there are also 2 more meetings before January 1, just point it out.
Yeah.
So if you do want to simply table, we could go there. But again, I'm not hearing any direction, at least general consensus, on what a 2080 agreement looks like that turns into a positive vote.
Well, okay. This is good through September of next year. Correct. Our
Correct.
current. If demolition and construction starts, those courts are coming out probably next summer, correct?
We're being told March is when the plan demobilizes.
Okay, so we won't have tennis courts for another year, 2 years possibly before they get put back in?
Well, this 2080 agreement needs to be, the current one would need to be terminated for that to happen as well.
Which is why I feel like we should address the current one. We need to address this one, and then we can address the current one at the next
Different
meeting if we
time.
want to. They're two separate issues, right?
That's sort of what I've
Yeah.
understood.
Tennis
Yeah.
courts, we don't have an agreement.
No, that's why I think that we're gonna need to come up with a 2080 agreement, I think elsewhere for tennis, in the time that there isn't tennis in town. I mean, I agree with Cody. We have a prolific tennis enthusiast community, and we want them to be able to play tennis even while the school's being designed, and I do think that there are options that we should explore.
So getting back, I want to be clear. So the current 2080, the one already in place, says those courts need to be there through September of 2026. So that means no demo of them prior to that, unless it's mutually agreed upon that that 2080 agreement is either terminated or amended.
Okay,
Understood.
all right.
So actually, what we're voting on is this current proposal that came forward.
Correct. And the current proposal has the clause in there that terminates the previous one and allows the new.
Okay.
So do you want us to move the motion and then vote it down?
If that's the council's prerogative, you sure can. What I'm getting at is if there is one that you want to come back with at a future meeting, any kind of guidance that I can get that there is a consensus, but again, I'm speaking candid, I'm not hearing a general consensus of what a new 2080 looks like that gets voted in the positive.
Well, we've got quite a while to work on it before any new courts get built anyway, so
So-
we could terminate the current one so that construction can start next March, and then work through a new one if that's council's desire, before the new courts open.
I really do want them to be able to pursue with the county, though. And so if there is any initiative on their part that they want to say, hey, does the county want to partner with us on these? Again, spreading out the taxing entity of who's going to use it. I don't want sort of to be holding them up thinking we're waiting for the city. Because I really do believe we're asking the same people to pay twice. Doesn't seem fair. I mean, I think that's the crux of this agreement. When we built the tennis courts together, it was very different. We didn't have the athletic complex. We didn't build 8 pickleball courts because the school backed out of a racket complex with us. I mean, so the landscape has changed. Our debt commitment has changed. It seems unfair to ask the Decorah resident to pay twice for the same service. That's not going to change in my mind.
Yeah, I could imagine bigger conversations, shared use agreements that extend beyond tennis facilities, where I might be more interested in Decorah, financial participation in maintenance of these, some of the facilities in question. But as far as like a purely like what serves the people we represent the best, well, they are already paying taxes to the school district at the same rate as all other, residents of the school district's serviced area. And I suspect that there's fairly one-to-one overlap between the tax base of the school district and the average user of the tennis courts. And so I feel like they're the appropriate authority to provide the services. I don't really see a great role for the city here.
I think what I hear that is clear is that, and tell me if I'm wrong, the current 28E agreement stays in place. A motion would be made not to approve, well, it could be two options, not to approve it or to table. Is that correct?
Well, a third option that doesn't sound like would pass would be to approve the 2080.
Well, that's
those are
correct.
the
That's
options.
correct. I'm only just,
Any motion,
okay,
as a
that's
reminder,
true.
any motion needs to be made
In the positive.
in the positive.
Mayor, I move to table the issue until the next meeting.
Okay,
Second.
all right. When you state you move to table. You second it. There is no further discussion then. Okay?
I just want to make sure that that's correct. Is that the rules when it's a motion to table? Is that right? I didn't know that. That's great.
No, I
I'm
didn't
always
either,
glad
but
to
I
learn
learned
things.
today.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Motion and second to table. Roll
When it-
call.
If it's when it comes up with table, then we should have two separate, what to do with the current agreement and this agreement. It's gonna come back.
Okay, roll call.
Zittergren.
Aye.
Olson.
Aye.
Chisholm.
Aye.
Whittle.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Miss Lynch.
Aye.
Okay, item tabled. Sorry. Site plan review regarding Decorah Community School. Can I give background on that, please?
Sure. Okay. The city's received an application from Confluence, Inc. for the construction of an elementary school for Decorah Community School District at 101 Claiborne Drive. City Code Section 17.36.020 requires that the proposed development submit a site plan for review by the Planning and Zoning Commission and a recommendation made to the City Council. City engineers provide their review, and full letters included in Dropbox as File 8D. Summarized as Item 1, site plan shows line work for a new easement for storm sewer relocation. The city will need an easement agreement, including description of future responsibilities for costs to maintain or replace pipe and overlying private infrastructure. 2, site plan shows a portion of the north parking lot extending into current city right-of-way. Site plan proposes conveyance of that street right-of-way, which would require additional action by the city. Item 3, sections of frontage sidewalk straddle the right-of-way lines at various locations. Sidewalk easements on Decorah Community School District property shall be conveyed to the city to allow public access. There are also telecommunication lines underneath the sidewalk on the north side. That easement should also be included in that as well. 4, stormwater management plan does not include description of maintenance for on-site detention or the high school pond. The stormwater management plan shall also include conveyance properties for the reconfigured 54-inch storm sewer. The reason the pond is pointed out in this is because that shows the discharge from water on-site feeding directly into that pipe going into the pond. Item 5, fire hydrants are not shown, private hydrants are not shown on the site plan. Applicant shall comply with the state fire marshal's regulation and state building code and coordinate with city water department for material standards used in the city for water mains and sewers to be adopted as municipal infrastructure. I had a question posed on this note. And so largely, if the state fire marshal and building code determines no additional fire hydrants are needed, check, you've met that contingency. But if fire hydrants are required and they need to be municipal infrastructure, they need to meet our code requirements. Item 6 and 7, again, these are the two catch-alls. Item 6, all signage must be approved by the zoning administrator, and 7, applicant responsible for obtaining all necessary permits. Staff recommends that any consideration of the site plan include contingency upon items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 listed above. Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval contingent upon those same 5 items.
Do you have any other further comments?
It's dry and hot in here.
I'd be glad to go get you some more water.
So, there are 2 primary city code sections that Planning and Zoning Council are to evaluate the site plan on. Staff's recommendations, those are all the nitty-gritty site plan details. You know, a 1-inch scale isn't shown, and the north arrow address isn't on there, things that we talked about. But there are 2 primary code sections that the city council is responsible for evaluating. One is 17.36.010. That's the intent section in the city code, and 17.36.030, which also outlines your evaluation of the overall site as it relates to vehicle, pedestrian traffic, surrounding area, that sort of thing. So we point out the easy ones. You guys evaluate the hard ones.
Sure. Thanks. I guess I'll go first. I just first want to thank the community for everybody that responded to us in reference to this. I heard from countless people, whether it be email, seeing people on the street just talking about it, calling me up on the phone, things like that. I would say the voices were probably equal on either side of being for the site plan or against approving the site plan. Those that were against the site plan, their reasons range from too much parking, not much green space, to lights on the tennis courts, to not easy access for bikers and walkers to the sites, things like that. Those that were for the site plan had various reasons for it. Many of them were trying to counteract some of the reasons that people gave against it, but almost unanimously, everybody that was for the site plan voiced their frustration for how long this process has taken and wanted to see this thing get completed and get to the end. As far as the site plan itself goes, I would never want to weigh in on what goes inside that building. That's up to the educators and people that understand that. That's their business. I have no business weighing in on that stuff. The site plan itself, that's where we have to get involved. With that, I would like to make the following.
Just, I have one thing to do before you make a
Okay,
motion.
go ahead. I was gonna.
I'm going to ask, I have talked with Cindy, and I would like her to come up and address the council, similar to what she did for both Board of Adjustment and Planning and Zoning.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. I wanted to start by expressing my gratitude for your public service. I know that it's not easy. So thank you for your time and your service to our Decorah community, and thank you for the time that you put in to prepare for tonight's meeting and conversation. A lot of hard work was involved in getting to this point today, and you were a part of that. There were land sales and land acquisitions. There was a bond passed by nearly 67% for the Decorah Community School District. We have one of the most rural and geographically largest school districts in the state of Iowa. Our district stretches all the way up to the Minnesota border. And we've worked hard to have a very collaborative process. So with the guidance and expertise of our planning teams, after the bond was passed, we got to work immediately, and we had 6 months of a facility committee, which was a mix of leaders from the community, including people from the school district, that helped set the scope and scale of the project. They made a recommendation that happened before the vote. They made a recommendation to the Decorah Community School District on their recommendation of the size of bond that they felt was appropriate for taxpayers. The school board accepted that recommendation and got to work preparing for the bond, which passed a year ago in November of 2024 by nearly 67%. After the bond passed, our teams got to work with the user groups of the site, which will be the school district. And they got to work on plans, worked with the Decorah School Board, and then in the spring met with teachers and staff of the current John Klein Elementary, and met 4 different times to talk about what those teachers needed. And there were a lot of plans changes made during that time, and it was a lot of hard work. But I truly believe that our project today meets the needs of our teachers, staff, and meets what was promised in our school bond. Tonight, I wanted to introduce some experts that traveled from far away. First is Patrick Alvord. And Patrick is with Confluence Engineering in Cedar Rapids. Give a wave, Patrick. Thank you. Next is Tom Zelhaska. Tom is with Myron Construction, who is our construction manager at risk. He came from Madison, Wisconsin. Thanks, Tom. And last is Patty Spawart, who is with Emergent Engineering, or Emergent Architects, and she came from the Cedar Falls area. And I encourage you to, they're here tonight to answer your questions. So, I encourage you to reach out to them. As I close, I want to say that this site was built, this is a hard plan. Together, we chose to design a school in the heart of our downtown. It's not easy to plan and build a school while you're having school. And we want to be conscious and work with city utilities. And we want to have a little bit of outdoor space for kids to play during the 2-year construction window. Pedestrian access today is very challenging with one singular sidewalk on State Street. Our project, as presented, has immensely improved pedestrian routes for walkers and bikers with sidewalks that go all the way around the perimeter of the project and through. And we're happy to answer questions as that comes up. Community groups, green space. The volume of green space, that does not include the current softball field, but playground and grass. The amount of land that is existing today is really equal with the new plan. It's just divided up into 2 separate areas. The new playgrounds are designed for our teachers' needs and what they need, and can also be enjoyed by the community outside of school hours. I want us to focus tonight on to stay in the space of inquiry and to come with curiosity. So I'll leave it at that, and I'm going to sit down, but I'm here to help answer questions, and Dr. Tim Cronin is sitting beside me, and he is here to help answer questions as the council see fits as well.
Thank you very much. Okay,
Kirsten,
sorry about that.
do you want?
Does anybody have any questions? No.
Not ready. I want to let you finish, but we may have questions. I mean, let's have the conversation.
Well,
Sorry
I
if
think
I
the
don't-
questions should precede what I'm going to say, so that's, if anybody has any.
Yes,
I just want to say that I'm grateful to the school board, to Cindy, to Dr. Cronin, and especially to the architects and firms and their representatives who've traveled from around the region to be here tonight. That's truly great. I also want to say that I feel like I've had lots of opportunities to express concerns and ask questions over the past few months. I haven't always received answers, and I feel if questions emerge that we feel would be helpful tonight for considering this site plan as it's presented, I'll ask them. But right now I don't have anything like burning. I feel like I understand the site plan as it's presented pretty well. I've spent hours and hours and hours looking at it. I feel like I understand the motivations, even for things that I wish weren't in the site plan. I think I understand how you got there. But I don't have any questions at this time. I think that doesn't reflect on a lack of interest, but rather a history of excessive interest in trying very hard to understand this site plan as well as possible. And I don't think I'm alone around this table. I am, however, extremely grateful that you're here in case we do have things pop up as the conversation continues. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would echo that. And I also want to commend P&Z. I think they did a great job. And I listened to the meeting. I heard the response. I think they did a really great job asking the questions that I might and getting those answers. And I think also in follow-up, we did receive emails from P&Z that I felt were helpful in understanding their perspective along tonight. So I do feel like it is sort of, if they come up, we will ask them, but I feel pretty confident where we are.
I concur. I did attend the P&Z meeting, and there was a lot of questions that were asked, and a lot of things got answered. In regards to what I was saying earlier, I want to reach out to the community and say thanks for all the input that you guys have put into this. To me, that shows what a vibrant, interested community we have, how engaging they are, willing to get involved in things like this. That's a big bonus for our community to have that. With that said, I'd like to make the following statement. It has taken our community 16 plus years to get to this point. I think if there was one thing we can all agree on is that we all want to see a new school get built. We have gotten to this point with a great deal of cooperation with the school board, city staff, city council, and many members of the community who have been involved over these many years. This finally culminated with the city agreeing to sell valuable property near our downtown business area in the center of our city. This was a huge step forward, as that seemed to be the biggest stumbling block was deciding on what location to put the school in. However, when that location was chosen, it not only had to serve as a school for our youngest students, but it had to fit in with that particular location and serve the community as well. It would need to accommodate the traffic flow in this location, as well as to serve as a safe location for our young students. There are two major issues with the current site plan. If you look at the site plan, it shows the southwest corner within approximately 20 feet of the street. That location sits on a slight curve in the road and a slight upslope, which further restricts your vision. I believe this poses a safety hazard for our young students and needs to be addressed in the site plan. City Code 17.36030 states, the City Council shall consider the location of the buildings on the site with respect to vehicular and pedestrian traffic to and from the buildings. Number 2, the parking lot on the northeast side of the school extends into the city right-of-way, which will require a conveyance of the street right-of-way. With these two things in mind, I would not be in favor of approving this site plan. I have attempted to reach out to the school board to have a meeting to discuss these and other issues with the site plan, but have been unsuccessful in getting this meeting set up. If this site plan fails, I would hope that a meeting can be set up as soon as possible to get these items addressed and continue this cooperation, get a new elementary school built. Additionally, I would hope this site plan can be improved upon by addressing a few other items as well. Number 1, create additional green space as this needs to, as in the past, serve as a community space for Nordic Fest, parades, and other community functions. 2, reduce the amount of parking on the site as there exists ample parking currently in the immediate area of the new school. 3, improve access for walkers and bikers to the school campus. This is a major focus of the city, as can be seen in the 10-foot wide multimodal pathway currently being built on Hively Street to get to this area of downtown. Number 4, better connectivity from downtown to the elementary and high school area. This is one of the primary reasons the city was interested in this location for our new school. While we all share a desire to get this school built to better accommodate our youngest students, the most important thing is to get this school site plan right, not built quickly. We will have to live with the school in the middle of our downtown for decades to come. This school will exist long after I am gone from this earth. Thank you.
I think I'll follow.
That's
Is that
good.
right? And I also have a prepared statement. It was just easier to put my thoughts down on paper. Like many on council,
Thank you.
I have looked through the site plan. I have met with our city manager. I have deliberated over many things and separated my feelings about what should be there, what is there, but what is missing in respect to a site plan in this area. So I'm going to stick to my comments right now. Tonight is one of the more difficult decisions I've had to make on council. For 15 years, I've worked alongside many of you to see this school come to fruition, and I'm confident that regardless of the outcome of this vote, a state-of-the-art elementary school will be built on Hively Island. But I will not let the pressure of a 15-year endeavor be the difference between a site plan that works in harmony with the Hively location and what is just passed to get it done. My vote tonight represents a responsibility as a council member to represent the interest of the Decorah community. As public entities, both the school board and the city council serve the public good. This site, given its location, has diverse stakeholders, which we were all aware of in the sale of this island. The whole promise of a downtown school was to keep our youngest learners immersed in our community. The vision was one of connectivity and community space, elevating our schools as a centerpiece for our community. Otherwise, why not have built the school as a fortress on the outskirts of town? I have a responsibility to uphold the vision outlined in the Decorah Comprehensive and Sustainability Plan and to foster a community that values walking, biking, and safety for all modes of transportation, and one that promotes connectivity and accessibility. And most importantly, to treat the evaluation of this site as we would any other in town, regardless of the time it has taken to get this plan before us tonight. It is also essential to remind folks that the school project is already 7 months behind schedule through no fault of the city's. Quite the opposite. The city has on several occasions gone above and beyond to see this project move forward. We did not see a final site plan until October, and even then it was moved forward by our own city administration, which worked overtime to help the district by extending deadlines that they had missed. So this site plan could be presented to us today, keeping them on their schedule, which again is 7 months behind. I also want to make it clear that after viewing the site plan last month, I repeatedly requested a meeting with the school board to discuss the issues I saw with the plan, with the hope that compromises could be reached. But that never happened, as they never agreed. So if our vote delays them tonight, it is not just on us. It is an essential not only to build a school, but also to build one that fits within the scope of the greater community. The school will literally be at the heart of this community, situated on the most valuable property in Decorah. It's going to cost Decorah taxpayers $40 million, and we owe it to ourselves and future generations to get it right. Sorry. In the last 6 years that I've been on council, and 10 years prior, my top priority has been to see a new elementary school built in the downtown area. And it was the inability of the school board and the council at that time to reach an agreement that prompted my run in 2019. When there was still uneasiness, several council members, myself included, along with vision from the city administration, approached the district about building a collaborative vision for the North Alley and Hively Island. The city invested roughly, I think it was $40,000 a year in planning. And we hosted open community meetings and gathered a community-wide survey that eventually yielded the North Alley design, which, while not perfect, included all of the top priorities of the Decorah community: a state-of-the-art elementary school, community space for events, and a walkable, bikeable plan that provided connectivity from residential to commercial areas in the heart of our downtown. This vision built together was the final piece that brought enough council members on board to make the sale of the Hively Island possible. The promise and spirit of collaboration had been laid, to which the council felt confident that the priorities of the entire community would not be left behind. However, the moment the land sale was made, it seemed from our perspective that the school changed course. They pulled out of the joint racket complex that we had been planning with Luther College as part of this vision and virtually shut out city voices in the process. Our city manager was invited to 2 meetings and given a 2-day notice for each. We repeatedly wrote emails, asked for plans, and were met with blow-offs not ready yet. We were informed that the school wanted to have shovels in the ground by this fall. And as always, we responded by moving the Hively project forward, fast-tracking it, and setting aside our own priorities to help make sure that Hively happened in conjunction with the school. When they told us they weren't yet ready to reveal the plan, we still have done Hively, and yet they still were not ready. So they told us they weren't ready to reveal a plan, and now, a month and a half before their ideal bid, they say we are. And now they would like us to weigh in. So here we are, being asked to consider a site plan and being told by the school board it's time to get this done, as if we've been the one holding it up. And while it is essential to clear the air and lay the foundation for how we got here, I also want to be clear that there is a distinction between a poor process and a bad site plan. And I would like the rest of my comments tonight to focus on a site plan that does not adhere to the city's comprehensive plan, nor is consistent with the priority of public safety for mode shares of travel, primarily walking and biking, but in some instances, vehicular travel as well. My primary reasons for voting no on the site plan tonight include that 1, parking is inconsistent with the city's comprehensive plan, and the addition of excess parking beyond what is required creates a surplus of parking with well over 2,000 parking spaces in the immediate area of the school and C3 district. Additionally, several of the proposed parking spaces are within the city's right-of-way, additional parking spaces that have no buffer between the sidewalk and the parking lot, a plan design we have already prohibited elsewhere in town. We even required Quickstar to double the green space between them. The primary entrance to the building on Hively Street is situated too close to the street, resulting in poor visibility for pedestrians crossing Hively, which forces a less than ideal crosswalk to the busing loading area. As we know, many people cross streets most directly, and this jockeying around can lead people to cross in an unsafe manner. The staggered driveways on Claiborne with multiple people all exiting at the same time, and I don't think we've given enough attention to this at all, has created sort of an unsafe vehicle flow between the high school and elementary school. I also have additional concerns about the proposed location of the necessary rerouting of the storm sewer drain and the potential consequences of backup. By voting no tonight, I hope a better plan will be created. Even among school board members, there is some question as to whether this is in fact the right plan, as discussed at their special meeting in October. Moving forward, I urge the school board to work more collaboratively with the city administration to get this across the finish line and perhaps still meet the new spring shovel timeline. A great deal has been learned through this process about how we as publicly elected officials can do better. I know it's easy to have a public meeting and assume that things have been transparent, but the truth is that just because we discuss things at our regular meetings does not mean the public is fully aware of our intentions. We must work harder to be deliberative in our communications, repeating and posting and seeking coverage in our local media for topics that directly relate to public expectations, especially when the costs are so high, both literally and figuratively. That said, I know that over half of what I said here tonight might be lost on folks as I've stumbled through many of the words in my nervousness and anyhow. As are the countless emails and communications that I've written to the school board requesting better collaboration on this project. I could go down as a council member who sowed division on this issue and somehow synced the school. And to this label, I would ask of those who think ill of this decision, why would I do this after working so hard and putting my heart and soul into this for 15 years? Why would I vote no on a site plan unless I truly believed it wasn't in the best interest of Decorah at this time? I'm reminded tonight of the words of Councilperson Chisel, who said that to get this done fairly, the city has to be made whole by the project. This site plan does not benefit the city as a whole. Instead, it creates an isolated island in the heart of our downtown, generating unnecessary traffic and pedestrian safety issues while also contributing to a sea of impermeable parking in an area that already has ample parking.
I just want to speak to several things. For one thing, I know everyone in the school is doing what they can for the safety of our youngest learners in this town. I've heard from both sides, very compelling arguments from both sides of it. I don't have any strong feelings one way or another, other than the fact that we talk about parking. The town, it always comes up like we don't have enough parking. And I'm not talking specifically about the school. In this case, it's just everything that comes up. And I want the public to know that parking it's a whole community thing. And the forest for the trees is just trying to promote less driving, less non-pedestrian usage of travel. I think about the young people and not only about their safety in their school and the quality of their learning, but also the world that they're going to inherit from us. And I know that it is challenging and for getting kids to school and from school, and I just want it to really be considered as far as the whole community of just driving less. And again, this is to the whole community plan, not specific necessarily just to this, but I would just like it to sink in for people that this is that we're dealing with a crisis as far as global climate change and warming, and these are things that we need to consider as not just bickering things. I want to say also that I have huge respect for the school and what they're doing and the planning that has gone into this, and I don't necessarily have ties to the previous planning, so I'm not I'm not necessarily tied to that as far as other members of council, just because I wasn't involved in that planning session. I understand both sides of that. I'm excited for a new school, and I think every single person that I've heard from is excited about the school. I know that there's a lot of confusion over the competition gym. I've heard a lot of people talking about that, but I know that it's not as huge as it sounds to a lot of people. It was just a smaller, it was a change in having the bleachers on both sides, which made it a little bit bigger, which puts it in the category of competition gym, which freaks a lot of people out. But I would like to say that I am not freaked out by that. I think it's will be beneficial to the community as a whole. I would like also to speak on the division. Again, this is a thing I'm trying to always just bridge the gap and try to promote peace. And this is a collaborative effort between both the school and the city. We all live here. We all care deeply about the education of young people, and I just want to speak to the public in terms of just not being so against each other. It's not a us versus them. We're all in this together. We're all working on the same goal. We all care about the same things. So I just want to speak to division, overall division. Again, and to speak to some of my colleagues up here too, the school, it's your responsibility for the children within. And obviously all of your sentiment is going towards that, and I respect it deeply and appreciate it. Folks that are having challenges to this they're thinking that same way about the community at large. So I think that I would like to support them in what they're saying towards this is just a big picture as far as the community and not just the inside of the school, which is what the school board has to focus on. Also, I understand the sentiment of we bought it, we should be able to do what we want, which I totally understand that too. In this case, because it's a tightly connected relationship between the community and the school, both geographically as well as energetically, I feel like full cooperation and collaboration is necessary. So I don't know how eloquently I was able to speak to these points. Again, I could go either way with this. I just wanted to address the overall concerns of parking in this town when it comes to big picture issues, my deep respect and gratitude towards the school board for what they have been doing, and also just understanding of what is being said in a challenge to that. But yeah, sorry, my eloquence is not super great, but I just appreciate everybody that's in this whole thing. I know everybody is working on the same goal. So I don't want to hold things up, but if things are held up, I think that we can get to a collaboration, a full, like, everybody happy kind of thing. And I know that can't always be the case, but I hope that we can move forward on this, whether tonight or shortly thereafter.
Thank you. Randy,
Well,
speaking of the record.
as one that's not a huge proponent of building in this area since it's passed, and we meet all the criteria
Thank you.
of building and got the zoning variances, et cetera. Well, two questions I have. The first one is, I'm looking at the detail map here on the west side of State Street from Hively to Claiborne. Is there not a sidewalk in your site plan?
There are sidewalks around all 4 sides of the
Okay,
site.
it's
If
not
you're-
on- it's
If you're
not-
looking at the rendered plan, the colored version of the
Yes.
plan, the sidewalks along the west side of State Street were incorrectly colored as grass, but the site plan documents as submitted show sidewalks on all 4 sides.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. That was my only question, and you're rarely going to hear me say we need more sidewalks, but my only concern, one from having a flat roof school, why are we putting flat roofs on in this area again? Haven't we learned that they leak and they become more maintenance over time? Because I know with the Kerry leak, Dr. Chambliss did not want flat roofs for that same reason, and we ended up replacing a roof here just a year ago or so.
In regards to what's called a flat roof, we never install a roof that is completely flat. It's a low slope roof. It's actually very common in the area and around as well for commercial buildings. The main areas that you're going to see leaks happen are actually through flashings or parapet details, and so that's where we are really diligent to make sure that we detail those properly to try to prevent any water leakage as possible and get those addressed as soon as we do. Most of the warranties that we're looking at are 20-year warranties for this type of a roof, which is actually better than if you would look at some of the slope solutions.
20 years is good if the company's still in business. Okay. And that's not any reason to turn this down. That's just from a taxpayer's point of view that a pitched roof, if it lasts longer, that's probably the direction we should go, so we don't have the additional expense of repair and maintenance over time.
Anything else?
Nope, that's all I got. Thank you.
Steve?
Normally, I'm not too nervous to speak up here, but tonight I'm really glad that no one can see my knees shaking. Thank God for diocese. Miss Putnam Dibble, you said that it takes a village to raise a Viking. I'd never heard that before. I wonder if you've ever thought about what groups of Vikings do to villages. Sometimes they raise them as well. I once saw you be such an incredible teacher to a student in person. I saw you go way above and beyond the call. And that wasn't unique because I've seen that happen time and time again with Decorah Public Schools' amazing faculty. I think it's not luck that we are perpetually at the top. You are perpetually at the top of school rankings in Iowa. That's one of the reasons when my wife and I were relocating, we came here, because we love these schools. I love Decorah, and I love Decorah Public Schools. My son's education has been profoundly benefited by the many resources and wonderful people who are all over this system. And I am so grateful. And I take very seriously as a result, especially when I hear from teachers saying, please let this process proceed. I take it very seriously indeed. I am grateful not just for community input from educators. I'm grateful for all the community input that we've received. I'm especially grateful because this is sometimes a hard community to have a public opinion in. Believe me, it's a tough place to speak your mind. That's especially true if you're someone who owns a business that depends on people who may or may not disagree with you on a particular issue. That's especially tough if you're a appointed or elected official. I'm sympathetic to the school board, and I want to echo Cindy's wonderful comments of appreciation, even though I'm sure she's had other comments about me in other settings. I am profoundly grateful for the leadership of elected officials in this community who I often think are not thought about or thanked enough for what is often a thankless and hard task. I'm also convinced and have become convinced that Decorah works much better when we're honest with each other and when we can disagree with each other, even have deep disagreements and frustrations with each other without it becoming personal or becoming about the values of people we disagree with. Decorah works better when we assume good faith, when we're charitable towards people that frustrate us a great deal. It's not something I'm always perfect at, but I want to do better, and I hope we all do as a community. I mean, we can model a better way forward than what has happened the last 18 months for the children of our community, not to mention everyone else. I want to also acknowledge that I was not in the design rooms. I'm not an engineer or an architect. I'm not an educational specialist. I want to acknowledge all the things that I'm not. And I probably don't understand every single trade-off that led to this site plan, the one that the council's tasked with considering tonight. I'm sure that there are trade-offs that if I understood all the reasons for why it was really important to have as much parking as this site plan has, as little contiguous green space, contrary to what I was promised by leaders in the school board, and that's me being honest. Why this site plan has tennis facilities when I think it would have worked a lot better to have a shared racket complex somewhere else. I'm sure there were trade-offs I didn't understand. I trust that. But in the end, all of those trade-offs, all of those experts in a room, all of that meaningful contribution creates a site plan. And that requires the city to come together and evaluate it. I don't understand all the trade-offs, but I try to assume good faith. I assume that there's a reason the site plan is the way it is. And that assumption has informed my whole approach to this process, not just for the last 18 months, but for the last 5 years. I messaged Cindy within a few hours of her getting elected saying, great, let's get to work on a downtown elementary school, congratulations. And she was with me. You know, I was grateful for that. And when I reached out to a fellow council member who I wasn't sure if he was going to run again, I'm talking about Ross Hadley, I said, what if you ran again and we, like, this could be the council that on sticks this thing that's been stuck for almost 2 decades. Let's do it together. We extended ourselves. We put ourselves out there. We proceeded in trust. We extended the good faith and credit of the taxpayers that we represent. And I don't feel as if that's always been reciprocated extremely fairly. For 18 months now, and this is written, I have attempted, along with occasionally colleagues, to communicate to leaders in the school my concerns about the things that I was hearing about the site plan, or the things that I saw the one time that I was invited to be part of the community facility meeting. I shared some concerns then about many of the same things that I still have concerns about. And my participation was it was clear to me that it wasn't welcomed and that my feedback wasn't any more needed now that I voted to sell the land. That was the end of it. So when our opinions have been sought, both over the last 3 years and then over the last 3 weeks, it often has felt like our concerns weren't used to inform a better plan, but rather to craft political messaging designed to weaken our position and strengthen the position of the school board majority. And that has been hard for me. It's disappointing and frustrating. When even staff for the city who are notoriously, and I don't say this as a judgment, Travis, but like stays in their lane, does not take policy positions, that even that input has been rebuffed and unwelcomed. I just want to echo what Emily said. We got to this point, and it shouldn't surprise any of us because this has not been a good process. But of course, none of that matters. If this frustrating and I don't think in the best interest of the community and bad faith process had resulted in a site plan that was adequate to the city's needs, I would have voted yes tonight, and I would have kept my concerns and reservations to myself. But the site plan that came out of this bad process is a site plan that I don't think conforms to the area. The site plan itself does not meet the standards that Decorah has to expect of a site plan on such a prominent an importantly located, crucial, and central part of our community. We're not making any more land here. And this is some of the most valuable land in our community, and it is crucial that it does not simply serve the narrow interests of whoever it is that ensured that this plan does everything except for what the city was told it would do when we sold the land. My issues with the site plan have been covered by others, but for the record, I want to be clear that I'm concerned about pedestrian access, bicycle access, parking, the extension of parking onto city-owned property. I have appreciated the comments and communications of community experts on school transportation, community connections, walkability. You know, I've appreciated their concerns about the site plan, and they inform my vote and my considerations tonight as well. The school board, members of the school board have made it clear, in fact, that they don't intend this site plan to accommodate interests outside of their narrowly understood interests as far as what they want to accomplish, which again, you know, I don't know how we could have even gotten to the point where we are tonight, as close as we are, if I knew that that was what we were getting into. Planning and Zoning Commission members have asked a lot of hard and good questions, and in recent days, several of them have emailed us with further concerns about the project that I need to take seriously. And frankly, on reading some of the emails I've received in the past few days, I'm surprised that this site plan even won approval from Planning and Zoning at all. But all of that just gets us to here, where we have this site plan, and we have to evaluate it as a city council. That's our job. We have to evaluate its suitedness for the context. We have to evaluate that it conforms with our zoning standards and that it's in harmony with the existing and future development of the city. And I don't see that this site plan is, for the reasons that have been covered at length here and elsewhere. This is the one chance we get for Decorah taxpayers to make sure that what gets built on such a crucial piece of property doesn't create negative externalities for the community that we serve. More dangerous connections to the site, through the site, and around our community, and much more. It's like, I know that everyone feels like the stakes are really high right now, tonight. You know, even though 18 months ago it didn't seem as important that, you know, people be listened to. I know that it feels really important, but just, I want to encourage my fellow council members, there's a reason, there's wisdom written into the code being the way it is. There's a reason that it does come to this council for our discussion, deliberation, consideration, and approval or rejection. And if we choose to vote to permit the site plan, that's one way that we can go forward. It's not the way I plan to vote. If we choose to not go forward with the site plan, that is not a vote against a school in this site. That is a vote saying we need a better site plan, and that's what we expect. It does, but it shouldn't make us uncomfortable to say that we have to insist on a plan that works for the whole community. That's our job as a council. That's just how the process is supposed to work. And while there have been numerous opportunities over years to avoid things coming to this juncture, as has been well documented by myself and others, I am still actually pretty excited that we are as far along as we are. And if this plan doesn't pass tonight, I want to tell staff, I want to tell the council, let's be ready to move quickly to get to a plan that can pass. And to that end, I want to reiterate my strong willingness to be part of any conversation that would help make that more likely if the plan does not pass tonight. I'll be there tomorrow morning with anyone in school leadership who wants to discuss with me if we need to get back to work.
Okay. I believe it's Christopher?
Yes, ma'am. So I just want to start out by saying that I do have a little bit of some prepared statement tonight, but I also want to first start off by saying much of what a lot of us have already shared. We've received numerous comments from community members, both in support and opposition of this current proposed site plan. And overall, I just want to say that I appreciate that level of engagement. As it's been mentioned, we live in a great community where people are always engaged in the things that are happening within our community and shape our community future. I also want to take a second, I believe it was briefly touched on, that I want to recognize that being an elected official is not always the easiest role to hold. Both this in regards to council and the school board, we've all stepped up in capacities to serve, to listen, and to give back to our communities overall. I too want to echo and say that I respect the time, energy, and thoughtfulness all of us have put in on both sides of this conversation and partnership. We've been committed to this project and the broader well-being of our community. These decisions aren't always the easiest, and they can weigh heavily on us as individuals as well as in eyes of the public. And, you know, that's been the case of several conversations that I've had since I've been on council. So moving into some of my prepared conversation point, I just want to start out and acknowledge that earlier in this process, about a month or so ago, I shared a number of reflections and concerns about the evolution of the site plan, which I feel line up with some of the concerns that have been shared by other council members tonight. Those comments were based on what I was hearing from residents when I reviewed past records prior to my tenure on council, and overall expectations that I felt were communicated to the community when this project was first initially introduced. Following the school board special meeting, which was roughly a month ago, I took additional time to reach out and touch base with a few school board members, and overall just try to gauge a better understanding and updates and also perspectives of everybody involved in this process. While I appreciated these conversations and the openness shared, some of my original concerns still remain. Since then, I've continued to have conversations, review the plans that have been provided to us, and listen closely to both not just individuals that I represent in this community, but both applicable staff members when it comes to the city level. With the continued review, with some things that have been said tonight, I do want to reinforce that concerns that have been raised tonight, because I do believe they warrant serious consideration. Several elements of the current plan, the volume and placement of parking, the lack of buffering in areas where we have required it elsewhere, the proximity of highway entrance to pedestrian movement, staggered driveway alignment on Claiborne, and the rerouting of stormwater continue to raise a lot of questions and concerns for a lot of people, not just people up here tonight. I think for a long-term safety and consistency and how the development aligns with current standards we've applied to other applicable projects, I believe these aren't minor details. They are potential things that can shape the experience and safety of not only students and families, but the surrounding areas of around this new site plan if it is approved and moved forward. At the same time, I also do want to take a second to be clear. I'm not trying to create an unnecessary conflict or impede on overall progress of this site plan. This is an important project, and as it's been shared multiple times tonight, a lot of us have been involved in this for a long time, 15 to 16 years, and we've all made great commitment to this project to see it forth, especially from some of you individuals that are also sitting in this audience tonight. And at the end of the day, the community deserves a thoughtful and well-executed outcome on all aspects. My goal is not to stand in the way, but to ensure that the plan we approve meets the level of safety, functionality, and compliance we can consistently expect all around for other projects. I feel overall I could reasonably vote either direction tonight. My priority at the end of the day is to make a well-informed decision for our community that supports both the long-term success of this project and the work that people have put forth into this project thus far, but also expressing the best interest of the community members that call this community home as well. Because this current site plan, a portion of it does sit in my ward, and I've had various concerns shared by local business owners that are on that backside. In the end, I just want to say I do remain committed to not only working with applicable district staff, having conversations with school board members and other council members to ensure that whatever decision is made tonight allows us to move forward with overall confidence and clarity for the people that we represent in this community. And I do want to echo on Steve's sentiment. Regardless of the outcomes that do occur tonight, I'm always here to have the conversation, and I've had the conversations and want to proceed with those if needed.
Brent?
All right, so first of all, I just kind of want to talk to the school board.
We know, we 100%.
Thank you.
First of all, I kind of want to just talk to everybody on the school board, the engineers, the people that are way above my level that spent the time to diligently go through this, come up with their needs, and come up with a site plan. And I think that as we all sit here and we kind of talk about what the site plan looks like, and just maybe it's not, we're talking about Decorah and what it is for Decorah, which there may necessarily have some good points and some of what the other council members have said. However, I do feel that it also meets the needs of our students, and it meets the needs of the children that are there. It meets the needs of future people, not only in Decorah, but in rural Winneshiek County. And so we can sit here and talk about all these things that it doesn't do for Decorah, but what I do know it does do is meet the needs for our children. And that is one thing that I think that in me, trusting my two girls with all of you, since they've been little, I trust that you look out for their safety. You look out for what's best for them. I'm comfortable with the fact that I drop them off every day. Now they drive, but I drop them off every day, and you're looking out for their best interest. I am 100% supportive that this site plan, you have thought through that, and it's looking out for their best interest. And so thank you, and I'm supportive of this.
I have a question or a process of
Wait,
anything.
Mayor, can we have some deliberation on this?
Yeah, I
Okay,
need to.
sure.
This is my question is more of a process, not, when both Board of Adjustment and Planning and Zoning state that they pass with contingencies, how do we work with that when we're passing, the site plan? Does that mean that they would have to comply by the contingencies that were recommended by both of those organizations?
So Board of Adjustment is the entity that grants the variances. So those are a separate consideration, and actually that's tied to agenda item 9 on here.
Okay.
So, the Planning and Zoning Commission, as they evaluate the site plan and make a recommendation to council, they, like I said in my background, they included those 5 contingencies, summarized the first 5.
Right.
The council to approve, it's still ultimately up to the council on what to approve with the site plan. So you can say no contingencies, you can say all 5 as recommended, you can pick and choose which ones that you want to include in that motion. Where it gets questionable is if you were to throw in some kind of oddball contingency that we're gonna approve this contingent upon these 5 plus a pedestrian overpass from North Alley parking lot to Claiborne to the high school. I'm just throwing that out there. I don't think that's anyone's intention. But I'm firing for effect. If you throw something pretty far out there, then there's gray area on whether we need to send this back to Planning and Zoning Commission, because that's substantially changing the site plan. So now they have to take a second stab at, a second look at that site plan and make a new recommendation to council. So if you want to move one way or another, so for example, all the all the contingencies that were recommended to be included, if you wanted to maybe lighten one of them, you could do that. Again, you can say no contingencies, pick and choose. Just don't get crazy with throwing out a new consideration out there, because otherwise we start getting into gray areas on whether planning and zoning needs to review and make that recommendation.
Thank you.
Did I answer that question?
Yeah, I think so. Because what I hear is people who appreciate the work of a school and what they've done as far as the site is concerned, but that there are some pieces that they are not happy with. And so I didn't know how, if you approve a site plan or if you do not approve a site plan, if you table, if tabling is a thing to see if some of these things can be worked out.
Yeah, I mean, that's the same as the previous item. You have three options. Motion, it's got to be motion in the affirmative or motion to table.
Okay.
And then those are your three outcomes. You
minute.
have an approval
Just a minute.
or a denial of some kind.
I would like to respond to some things that I heard from council member, and I think it is important, especially on this type of issue, that we do have some back and forth deliberation. And I echo the sentiments of my council members that we are not engineers, but we are city council members tasked with a very specific goal or very specific responsibility, and that is to evaluate a site plan and its cohesion with the overall plan and design for Decorah. I've heard it mentioned, in fact, a school board member said it, and I tried not to take too much of an offense when it was said that they bought the land and they can do whatever they want with it. Well, the truth is that part of being in a community is that nobody gets to do exactly what they want with their land. And the oversight of how we create spaces in our community, whether it is your house, whether it is a bowling alley, whether it is Quickstar, has to do with how we together work to represent the comprehensive plan that was developed and the community vision that we carry when we get elected. And I do think that, yes, out here sits the educators. I myself is an educator, right? I'm not playing that card tonight because that's not the hat I'm wearing. I'm wearing a hat. It's the same view I took when I looked at the Quickstar property, right? I'm not wearing a hat about whether or not I get to decide whether or not a gas station goes there. I wear a hat that says, is that site, and have they done the work in order to make that site appropriate for the area that it's going into? And that's what we're being asked and charged with on this site plan tonight. Not whether or not this is a great school for children. I have no doubt that it is. But that is not our job. Our job as city council members is to make sure that this site is great for Decorah. That means the downtown businesses, that means the traffic flow, that means the people who walk there, the people who bike there, and all of the other ways in which this island can either bridge and connect or isolate. I repeat something I said in my words earlier, which I think is important, that the promise of this site wasn't just about a school. Just about a school could have put this school anywhere else in our community. It could have put it in the Dalen property. This site was about community connectivity. That was a community vision, and that's what we are here to hold. That's what we are experts in. That's what we look at site plans for. And why I think P&Z members wrote us, because they said, we approved the site plan, but we have trepidation. I said yes, only because I think it's council's purview. Council holds the vision. Council holds this comprehensive plan. Council has their eye on how does this connect to the rest of Decorah. This plan does not connect to the rest of Decorah, and I think the fastest way to get this school built is to say, not this site plan, work with us. We will work overtime to get this done. But this site plan, any modification we make would go back through the whole process. So we might as well make a site plan that works for the Decorah community, that works for the school, and isn't some isolated, cut-off island that literally pays zero regard for the interest of Decorah as a whole.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yes.
I would like to point out that I want to take the opportunity of the professionals in our room, because I feel like opinions have directed the community narrative that I don't necessarily agree with. The process that we were guided through was not based on personal opinions of the school board. We hired experts to design this project. They met with, all of the users, including outside school groups. They talked with the recreational use through Decorah Park and Rec, outside community members that use the school for different things. And by not agreeing to have a collaborative meeting, I want to be efficient with everyone's time, because I'm not sure, I want to take the experts first of the experts that we hired to design this project. So Patrick, if you could come up here, I'd like to.
Before you do, wait.
No,
Can I make a
just
statement?
wait. I'd
This is-
prefer that we just listen to you till you finish,
Okay.
and then we will determine whether we want him to come
So
up or not.
the things that I want to address that I heard that pedestrian access was not safe. And we haven't heard from an expert to tell why they designed it the way they did. I've heard that there's too much parking, and I'd like to hear from an expert on why they designed as much parking as they did. And I've heard that this is not accessible to the community, and I want to hear from the experts why they designed it the way they did.
Just a minute. I do have a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was not only one city council person, but several city council persons that said they attempted to have conversations with yourself or with the school board, and that never came to fruition. And I guess my thought is, by communicating back and forth, it could have been that we could have assisted in some of the difficulties.
And I appreciate any time that people reach out with questions. At the time that Steve and Emily reached out months ago, we weren't far, there were so many decisions to be made yet that we weren't ready to talk about those particular site details. I stand beside the statement that I said before. We have always talked about community use in mind. There is a sidewalk that goes through the property. There are gates that can be opened for access. This is a school that meets the size of the school meets the needs of how many students we anticipate having. We chose to have tennis courts in this location so the high school could use it right across the street and not have to drive across town.
That's understood.
We have 2 playgrounds that are separated because there's different accommodations and needs for our pre-K and kindergarten versus our older learners. That divides up our green space. We, at length, talked about pedestrian, traffic, and bike safety, and we addressed that by dividing parent drop-off with the bus drop-off. So there are a lot of issues that I would like, and I know that you've heard from me a lot, so I just want the council to be fully informed.
I think that one of the pieces too is the speed with which we need to look at the site. Obviously, I think that there could have been more time that the council would have had to be able to look at that site, then communicate with the board and say, okay, these are some of the concerns, so that when it came to us, those things were going to
So
work out.
I do want to voice that with our planning teams, Dr. Cronin and I did advocate to have the council, that's why we made our presentation in early October.
And I want to be clear, I reached out to you after that meeting twice to meet.
And I thank
So it
you for
wasn't
your
just-
time on the phone.
Yeah, I mean, I really do want to say, Mayor, that you asked the question. I think it's appropriate to say that I had reached out and since seeing the site plan for the first time and today, trying to fix some of these issues.
I think my concern was that, again, we hired experts to design this site, and I wanted the council to be able to see the site and learn about it as is before inserting personal opinions. Community use was always part of
I'll
this
come back to
project.
you before we-
Okay. And
Okay.
thank you, Mayor. I want to be very clear that my comments tonight are not my personal opinions. We are blessed as a city to have experts in this design. Our city manager is an expert in community design. Our engineer is an expert in community design. Like, that is one of the reasons we literally begged to have our city manager at these meetings, more than 2 with more than 2 days' notice. So to say that we have not consulted experts, I think is not correct, and that these aren't my opinions. If you want my opinions, I could have gone on all night, right? And I tried to separate what was my opinion between what was actually an engineered expert opinion about what was safe and what wasn't safe. So you have your experts and we have ours. And at the end of the day, I do recognize, right, that you are responsible for what goes into the school. But our responsibility is to the site as a whole, to Decorah. And for that, the experts are, quite honestly, our city engineer and our city manager. And I'm not trying to put Travis on the spot, but I can't tell you how many hours we've discussed this plan at length. It's not as if I looked at this plan, got pissed off, and said, screw this. You know, I saw this plan, I got pissed off, I reached out to you first. Then I reached out to the community because I'm like, holy crap, we got a month. We better get some noise on this. If I hadn't written that letter, how many people would actually know what was going on? And at great cost to my own stress level and the amount of people that thank me and hate me at this moment because of it. Again, 15 years I have tried to get this school built. I'm not raising a red flag because somehow all of a sudden I'm like, I have red feet or I haven't consulted an expert.
Okay. I understand that piece.
Sorry, that
I
was.
understand the frustrations, and I hear you.
No, I appreciate it. but
I
sorry.
also understand of being pinched as far as coming forth with the support of a council for the site plan. I also trust what the school has done. I think that's been said as well, even though that it wasn't conferred to the council in a timely manner, maybe. And so it puts me on kind of an edge as far as how to proceed. Because I know that when we first started this, there were 20 people on that initial study. And I thought maybe you had come to some, but also that included the park superintendent at that time. It also included one of the board members, included representatives of the cities, and we met for at least 5 months, I think it was, coming forth. And what I saw that came forth is very similar to what it is now. I think the issue that I see is the way, and I understand if you're trying to build a school with the other one in mind, that is something to consider. But I also think that we have to consider how there was, it's not fit quite the way you were asking for easements. Granted, that whole block belongs to the school. It isn't like you have houses that we have to consider. But that being said, that's hard, and I think the questions as far as the rerouting the stormwater, more, discussion is needed that way. And so there's pieces of it that I think need more discussion. And I guess I'm just sort of confused at which step to take to try and make it as clear, but also timely.
I'm interested in proceeding in the way that, or was that question for the staff? I'm sorry.
I was asking.
Go ahead.
So first, want to address a comment Emily made earlier about being an expert. Thank you. That's a nice thing. I've been called all day. So also the first time I've been called that today. Comic relief fell flat. All right, perfect.
Mine did too earlier, Travis. It's
You know, I tried. So, again, the council has essentially 3 options, but really 2 actions that could be taken to move forward, essentially. There is either, again, a motion to table and try and see if there's future discussions as well. The second is a motion, again, in the form of, it needs to be in the affirmative, as a reminder, because if you have a motion in the negative and it's defeated, that doesn't mean it passes. However, a motion in the affirmative, if that is defeated, that is a failed vote. So you have 3 potential outcomes, but 2 actions. You can either motion to table, have a second, vote there, and again, as pointed out before, motion table ends all discussion. The second is a motion in the affirmative if it gains a second, and again, you can include all contingencies, no contingencies, pick and choose, but it needs to be to approve the site plan in the affirmative.
Okay.
Now again, as a council rules of procedure, as a reminder, that motion that's made and second, you are not bound to vote in the affirmative, even if that is your motion made. Is that enough guidance on
Yep.
procedural?
And those 3?
So it's 3 potential outcomes, but
Okay.
2 actions.
Okay,
Motion to
gotcha.
table, motion in the affirmative.
Okay, I gotcha.
And I was just
Okay.
going to say procedurally, first of all, I think as much as I resent Cindy's implication that we are up here trying to leverage opinions against expertise, which is profoundly unfair, I do acknowledge and appreciate that people have come from a long way to make a case for this. And I do think that the stakes are high enough that I personally just want to say I'd be very comfortable letting and inviting, this is not my decision alone, but I'd be happy to hear strong cases made for the plan as it is and how it conforms to Decorah's comprehensive vision, why these things are necessary. I suspect I will disagree, and I think it would serve the community's interest to have that kind of robust back and forth discussion between leaders. I think that I promise you I will extend to you respect, and including respect that you're not simply coming with your opinions, but that you're coming with your interest in what best serves the people you represent. I ask that you do the same in return. So I'm willing to hear from them, and if the rest of the council doesn't want to hear from them, that's their prerogative. I will be here after the meeting. I'd love to have you come make the case to me. I can change my mind. I'm capable of it. I've done it before. However, I also just want to say that, I bet there aren't that many people in this room who've read multiple books about parking. I am one of them. And I have read multiple books about how to make walkable communities. And I've read multiple books about tax access. And I've read multiple books about how to do this job as well as I can, because that's my history and my training. I learn about things and I do my best to understand them as well as possible. And then I try to make the best possible decision for my community. And I'm just going to go ahead and dismiss out of hand any implication that I'm just up here with opinions.
Okay.
And
that's-
I just want to say that I think we owe the school an up or down vote. I'm open to hearing from the experts first.
Actually, that being said, I would like to hear from the person, which one was it that you were talking about? Patrick. I do want to hear from Patrick. And what I'm looking for is, you can come up here. What I'm looking for, after you've heard the concerns about the safety surrounding that school,
Yep.
I want you to address how you came up with the plan that you did.
Okay.
I also was encouraged, and I heard that there was going to be sidewalks all the way around, but it was not on the site plan. Is that correct? Okay.
Yep. All right.
Okay, then I'd like to hear from you. Just state your name, because she's got to have it down.
Sure.
So.
My name is Patrick Alvord. I'm a principal with Confluence. We are landscape architects and planners. I'm a licensed landscape architect and licensed architect in the state of Iowa. We were hired as a subconsultant to the architecture team in service of the school board to develop a site plan alongside the remainder of our team, which included civil engineers, structural, mechanical, electrical engineers, and the architects themselves. When we addressed specific site concerns relative to the building, beginning with pedestrian safety, our goal first and foremost is to evaluate the existing context of the community and look at where your pedestrian transportation networks currently exist, and then do our best to connect to them. But be clear that we are not looking beyond the perimeter of the site, except as far as to understand where crosswalks cross public streets and connect with other sidewalks within the public right-of-way. Okay? We are fortunate on this project that at the same time that the school plan is being developed, John Yelly and his consultants are developing the next phase of the Hively Street reconstruction. That design team made a determination that a roundabout was the right intersection modality for Hively and Claiborne and River Street, okay? Statistically speaking, all the data shows that roundabouts are up to 75% safer for pedestrians. Single lane roundabouts in particular are more safe for pedestrians than 2-lane roundabouts. So what we're looking at here is an improved intersection at River, Claiborne, and Hively intersection that is going to provide improved access for pedestrians, both on bicycle and on foot, to the site in the southwest corner. Our site plan responds to that by connecting sidewalks primarily to the southwest entrance of the building. Okay, if you look at the site plan carefully, there's a 14-foot wide sidewalk that extends along the perimeter of the bus lane. That is the primary access point for students on foot from the southwest corner, from the roundabout. Okay, I got a little sewing machine leg going on here because it's been a while since I've addressed the council, so I'll come down here in a moment. Our goal is to get students, once they reach the site, to the building as quickly and as safely as possible. So we provide a wide sidewalk, interior of the site, that accesses bike parking and that southwest entrance. The same is true on the northeast side of the site. We've connected sidewalks on site to the existing street network in their existing locations. We are not eliminating a sidewalk on the west side of State Street, even though the rendered site plan shows that it's gone. I will say that that is an artistic representation. That is not a reflection on what the site plan documents show. It's simply a cover image, so please consider it as such. The submitted drawings show the existing sidewalk to remain and that sidewalk to extend onto the site, both immediately along the north side of the tennis courts and along Claiborne Street where it currently exists. We've also increased the width of that sidewalk so that it is wider and more gracious for students that are moving along Claiborne in the east-west direction from the outside of the building. Okay. So from the southwest side of the site, we're getting students into the building as quickly and as safely as possible. I want to address some concerns about a crosswalk from Court Street onto the site. There's going to be a rectangular rapid flashing beacon installed along with those crosswalk improvements, if I'm not mistaken. And Travis is nodding, so I assume yes. There were some comments made earlier this week that I believe were shared with you that suggested moving that crosswalk into the S-curve along Hively would be a better location for pedestrian crossing. And I will stand here and tell you with all conviction that that is absolutely not the right location for a crosswalk for students. S-curves are dangerous because they are limited sight distance locations for vehicles. Regardless of what speed a vehicle is moving, when you approach an S-curve, you force the driver to change their view and be looking outside of their sort of normal perspective going through that environment. To introduce a crosswalk and pedestrians into that space, it adds another component, right? And it increases the risk for pedestrians that might be waiting in that location. Given the existing street network and how it connects with the building on the south side, a crosswalk at Court Street makes the most sense with the site. It connects to the existing infrastructure. It is in an area where motorists are already anticipating there could be cross traffic, which means they're already on the lookout for cars that are stopped and maybe moving into their path of travel. And the same is true for pedestrians. We normally experienced pedestrians crossing streets at intersections. So when we do introduce mid-block crossings, they have to be in very specific and strategic locations to ensure that there is enough visibility of those pedestrians from people in cars to be able to see them, to slow down, to react to them, and to stop safely before running through that crosswalk. And we don't expect to do that when we're at mid-block without a fair amount of warning, okay? Conversely, on the north side, we have an existing crosswalk across Claiborne that connects the elementary school to the high school site. And we were very considered in whether or not we maintained that crosswalk location for students. When we have a crosswalk that is directly connected to a main entrance to a building, and there is nothing to prevent or to encourage a student or staff member from pausing before exiting the building and running right out into the crosswalk, we introduce a higher degree of conflict. So when you get to a public sidewalk and you have to make a decision about going left or right to access your nearest crosswalk, the pedestrian takes the responsibility for slowing down and thinking about, where am I going? Should I be running out into the street? Are these cars that are buffering me from the traffic that's in Claiborne a safety barrier, or are they a hindrance? They're a hindrance, yes, if that person decides to scoot between the cars and duck out into traffic. But if they're encouraged to go left or right and find the nearest crosswalk, they're going to move right across the street safely and in the visibility of motorists. And I would point out that the staggered driveways or the access into the new parking area at the school was intentional to coordinate with the existing condition, in so much as folks are used to that in this location. Okay? You already have a congested site. You don't have a lot of opportunity to get driveways and intersections properly spaced along that block in a way that could materially improve the condition, but we wanted to make sure that we didn't make it any worse. All right? So maintaining that crosswalk and maintaining that driveway in their relatively current location is status quo in so much as folks understand how traffic moves through there, and we're not creating an unexpected condition. More importantly,
Can I ask you a question right there? There is a new input-output into that road, right? I mean,
we don't have a site plan pulled up.
Could
No,
you
that
put
is
a,
existing.
it's like in 008.
yeah, but people can't pull out of that currently. They go in and they go out the other side.
And I believe that logistically that is still the way that that would operate.
There is a drawing that has a left turn, right turn,
Yep.
straight. Out of both of them.
Out of both of them. However, during the busiest times of the day, during parent drop-off and pickup, and the beginning of the day, end of the day, it is the responsibility of the district and district staff to make sure that folks are moving through that site in the most efficient way possible. And as a drop-off loop, it's going to function primarily as right turn in, come around the drive, line up on the queue, passenger side along the sidewalk in the school district, and then exit out onto State Street.
And I understand process, right? And that but I fundamentally believe that our environment shapes our behaviors.
Sure.
So yes, the school board might say that that is how it is, but now you have literally introduced a whole new level of complexity into that street in this design.
In so much as offering a right turn opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That may be true. But logistically speaking, it is manageable during the busiest times of the day with staff and direction in how folks are entering and exiting the site. And that's not uncommon to school sites across the Midwest.
That
The last comment I wanted to make
Okay.
relative to the crosswalks in that particular location is, much like we anticipate a crosswalk being at a street intersection, parents are going to anticipate that there's a crosswalk next to that driveway. One, because it exists, but two, they're already slowing. They're making efforts to slow down, stop, and look, and that is a great location for a crosswalk to be because we're already in that mindset that we need to slow and be attentive to what's going on.
I have a question. On that, how wide did you say the sidewalk is on the State Street side?
The State Street sidewalk from the Hively Street intersection down to the corner where we are meeting, we'll call it the
Claiborne?
northeast corner of the tennis courts, is maintained as existing. We are not expecting that there's any removal of that existing sidewalk in that space. So I believe it is 5 feet as it currently exists, but I don't know that dimension
That's
off
correct.
the top of my head.
I just checked with John. And then there is, just for my own clarity, the sidewalk that goes all the way around Claiborne,
Yep.
Does that start at Hively and wraps all the way around?
Yes. So that sidewalk is 6 foot wide and will
Okay.
connect to the sidewalks and crosswalks that are being included as a part of the roundabout improvements, which, as you probably are aware, connect then to a 10-foot trail on the west side of Claiborne.
Okay. Then just to reiterate what the council had agreed upon at the last meeting was a sidewalk on the south side of Hively that goes all the way. So if you look at that, that means there's sidewalks that go all the way around that property. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure.
No,
I
that-
think one of the comments I would make about the site in general that isn't site plan specific,
Sure.
but was part of that North Alley visioning. The problem, of course, is that you have all of this parking in the North Alley that this particular site plan cuts off to the high school because there is no, I mean, you have to walk all the way around the whole lot as opposed to a pathway through it. We're not here to discuss the pathway through it, but that is one of the problems I see in the site as
Sure.
a connectivity issue.
No, I understand that, and I will, in all fairness, our concern was the safety of the students and ensuring that their play yard was secure during school hours. We did make accommodations for pedestrian crossing through the site and how we located gates and sidewalks relative to the North Alley parking area, but we have options during school hours for any pedestrian to circumnavigate the site on those city sidewalks.
I think also from the city council standpoint is taking a look at that North Alley and seeing how that can be arranged or changed, to make maximum for maybe parking, but also to be able to make it so that people can, that would be on our part.
We did. I mean, that
No,
was
I
the
know.
North Alley plan.
I know.
That is
I
not
know.
represented here.
I
mean,
know.
That's
But
ultimately.
that plan was developed by the city.
No, that plan was developed in conjunction with the school district as a partnership.
Okay,
We each put
okay.
half and half in. That was the
Okay,
plan that.
I understand
is in
that,
motion.
but it is something that we would need to consider to clean that up so that it is easier to, no, I'm not
No,
accusing
no,
you.
I'm not arguing with you.
I'm just making
saying-
it, I'm just making a point.
Yeah, I think that was our hope in meeting with the school board in the last month, was how can we take some of that consideration and
Right.
put it back into the plan.
That's
We'll
correct.
get the two to blend together.
Right,
Yeah, the
right.
North Alley parking and the site plan.
That's
That is
correct.
exactly one of my
whole point of
grievances.
it.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to speak up and say thanks. I think you're making a really robust argument for the site as designed, given decisions that I don't think you made. You didn't decide that there'd be tennis courts, 100 parking spots, and a larger building mass than maybe some of us anticipated. And given where the building is and given how the site, the uses that the school's trying to achieve on a fairly small site, given all the ambitious desires the school has for the site, I understand that you make the best of it in terms of pedestrian safety and access. However, I can't imagine that in an ideal world, your primary connection out of the southwest corner would actually cross a bus apron, taking kids out of their natural or desire path or intuitive path to the middle of that green island that, by the way, is being counted as green space, and then crossing. I don't know if I suspect you seem very familiar with the streets around here, so I think you've spent a lot of time looking at them. In this community, and I want to design streets this way, like sometimes people take the shortcut, and we need to be aware of that. And if that's what's going to happen, we need to make sure our designs reflect that. Like, that is to say that I suspect that regardless of what we design and engineer today, if we create a condition where the best way for people to access North Alley parking is coming out of that southwest door, turning left and crossing the road without going 60 feet out of their way to access a crosswalk on what is a pretty easy and narrow road to cross most of the time, that's what they're going to do. I'm not blaming you for those conditions. I think those conditions predate you, and that's why I want to vote no on this site plan.
Okay.
Understood. If I may quickly
Yeah.
just address that one specific comment. Relative to the accessible parking location on that southwest side of the building, and you use the term desire line. I think that's really important, okay? When we designed the bus lane and parking adjacent to it and provided 2 universally designed handicap accessible stalls there, we did not anticipate at that time the proposed crossing from Court Street onto the site. We were operating under the assumption that all crossing would occur at Claiborne and Hively, where it currently does, and we reacted to the proposed crossing from the Hively Street team in that location. The accessible parking stalls, the striping, the crosswalk through the bus lane, and the flared curb were already there as a part of the site design to provide appropriate access for mobility impaired individuals using those parking stalls to access the building, okay? We accommodated an extended sidewalk to that location. Our site plan initially, as I started the conversation, brought pedestrians onto the site and around the north side of the bus lane from that southwest side, okay? So we were reacting to suggestions by another design team on how we connect to that site, and didn't object to them to the degree that there is a desire line there that facilitates some connection, but it is not intended as primary. More importantly, much like I suggested, the crosswalk location on the north side of the site is protected by the parking that sits immediately to the north side of that sidewalk coming out of the building, that we ask pedestrians to make a decision to go left and right to cross the street. Our current site plan is intentional in asking pedestrians to move left or right to come around the bus lane and onto the site. It is not ideal to have that striping there in those locations, but we are obligated by ADA to provide accessible parking in as close a proximity to the main entrances of the building as we can.
I want to thank you for,
Yes.
I think, the open admission of the fact that had there been better collaboration, this might look a little bit different. And I think that is my biggest lament here, is that for as much as the school district said we knew, I want to say they knew we were doing Hively. We pushed Hively ahead specifically for this project, so that we now have a less than ideal situation on this backside is one of the reasons I want to vote no, to figure this out so it is ideal. Like, I don't want to accept not ideal at this point, because a lot has been invested here, and will continue to be invested until $40 million are paid off. So I do think it's important that we get it right.
Mayor?
Yes,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I was just going to ask if I can clarify. I know nobody from McClure is here, so do you happen to know that one contingency that staff had listed on the stormwater management plan, have those calculations been done?
I believe they have. and
Okay. Because one of the things that keeps getting brought up here tonight is parking and green space, but where I think the connect is also getting lost is, when we talked about that with North Alley, we've talked tremendously about our drainage issues within this area. And so in our first meeting that we had, I took a first look at the site plan. I said, where's your stormwater going?
Right.
And so while you've accommodated for the majority of that on site, as well as with that school pond and that discharge, one of the things that we from a staff perspective want to make sure is that discharge rate within that pipe is we know it's going to become a reservoir because the choke point is that high school pond.
Sure.
So as that pond fills up, this pipe is going to fill up too. And it doesn't have quite the grade, since we're increasing the distance between those 2 points, making sure that there's enough self-cleaning velocity between those 2 points so that as that pipe backs up, so it is sediment. So that's from a staff perspective. We want to make sure, that stormwater has always been a huge concern from a staff perspective, and I know the council's shared that before. You've heard a lot of comments about parking and green space, and I'm not trying to speak for council, but I do think a lot of that does stem from those stormwater concerns.
I
Actually,
appreciate
just this past year, Hively, John picked me up in his car, and I thought we were going to float away when we drove by on Claiborne, and that intake situated just north of this site on Claiborne, because again, that water pushed into that pond backs up and that becomes its own reservoir. So that's one of the things I wanted to make ties between those two.
That was brought up at P&Z, and I think P&Z made a good point about why that hasn't been worked out, and expressed some trepidation about not knowing this yet with the stormwater plan. I included it in one of my 4 reasons as to why I can't support the plan as it is. But again, I look at our purview and what we're supposed to be looking at. I think stormwater is certainly something that I hope is being considered with the city, because I think that they are the experts here and that they've seen it.
I've got another question for him. Do you mind? This is actually a real straightforward question. I'm not trying to make a point. I'd like to understand. Maybe I'm trying to make a point.
I was just going to say.
Yeah, sorry.
Can
I was like, how can I make this just a question?
Can I call you on it if you are trying to
I
make
have
a
deep
point?
concerns about the single concrete surface that is both parking on the northeast side of the building and also a sidewalk serving pedestrians, many of whom are going to be children younger than the average hood height of a car.
Sure.
That seems to me to just be really unfortunate choice making driven by a desire to cram as much parking into this facility as possible. And in your, is this your field? I mean, is this something you're an expert in?
I do design, unfortunately, a lot of parking lots.
Sure.
When you go to landscape architecture school, you think it's going to be all plants and public spaces, but it's a lot of parking lots and trash
explains
enclosures.
everything, right?
Yeah.
I'm curious, to what extent does it conform with best practices in design manuals and accepted best practices in your industry to have parking that has no barrier or separation from a sidewalk serving an elementary school?
Which sidewalk specifically are you speaking
I'm talking about
to?
the northeast corner parking lot that has a flat concrete surface. Parking stall ends, sidewalk begins.
Yep.
Does that? And I'm asking specifically. There's a question. Does that conform with the best practices of your industry?
Yes, it does, and I'll explain in so much as the width of that sidewalk along the north side of the site is intentionally 10 plus feet wide. The reason that we design a sidewalk to that width is to accommodate a little front end overhang on a car. So you have a barrier curb that acts as your wheel stop and a little bit of anticipated front end overhang on that sidewalk. Whether or not a driver chooses to pull their wheels all the way up to the edge of the curb with that front wheel overhang, we always attempt to accommodate it. It's extremely common in retail environments where you have head-in parking immediately adjacent to a storefront, or in downtown main streets where you have 90-degree parking. You provide enough width that there is front wheel or front end overhang so that there leaves plenty of room for pedestrians to move along a sidewalk without feeling encroached upon. And that sidewalk was designed with that intent.
Is it common in residential areas or at schools?
It is common in any location where you're going to have a significant amount of pedestrian movement along a parking area to have that additional sidewalk width to accommodate the front end overhang. Yes.
And I'm familiar with similar arrangements in at least 2 places in town, at our movie theater and at the property with Old Armory Barbecue. That we have heavily pedestrianized paths there that oftentimes there are vehicles that do overhang, as you note. That is a thing that happens, and especially with longer modern vehicles or people who choose to back in. Sometimes half or more of even very wide sidewalks can be obstructed. That doesn't just create a barrier for people who need to get around and have mobility access. And by the way, none of this is necessary. Those parking spots are in addition to what the city requires in our code. But in addition to creating an actual barrier, no matter how wide the sidewalk is, it creates a psychological barrier for people. I mean, if you're navigating a sidewalk, if I'm sending my kid from the adjoining neighborhood to their elementary school because I want them to learn and foster independence, it creates a more hostile environment when they are stubbing their shins on the ball of a hitch because someone needed to back in their large truck. And I'm not saying it's bad to back in your large truck. I'm saying it's bad to design parking lots that create that conflict. And I think that that's one of my concerns about the site plan.
Sure.
Okay.
You said this was a curbed parking lot?
It is.
Okay, because what you referenced, Steve, aren't curbs,
They
so
aren't
you can
curbs.
drive up
Yeah.
onto the sidewalks.
They aren't curbs.
No,
very
you can.
easily.
I think Steve's talking about the curb. You can literally, they're just stumps, right? So you can.
Tires hit the.
Yeah, the tires will hit the thing in the back of your truck or go into the sidewalk.
Yeah, it'll hang over, but it's 10 feet wide, whereas the sidewalk over here is only 4 or 5 foot, and cars can pull right up onto it at the theater and at the barbecue shop.
Aren't there bumper stops at the theater? I think there are, and yet
Yeah,
cars often are.
Some of them,
Yeah.
some, not all.
And they're usually over.
So.
I also want to say that, there's I'll not say anything more. I genuinely appreciate you. I think that I disagree with you. Thanks.
That's okay.
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Any other? Okay, I appreciate your input, and I appreciate you making the trip
Yep.
and listening through our discussion.
Thank you for your time.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it. Yep.
Yep.
For the trip.
All right. With those discussions, I think that Travis did a good suggestion as to how
Well,
you might
okay.
be able to move
I would
forward.
move for approval of the site plan with the 5 contingencies.
Second.
That
Okay.
Second, Mayor.
So we have a motion made by Chisel to approve the site plan with the 5 contingencies, and it's been seconded by Zittergruen. Any further discussion?
I just want to remind my council colleagues, this is part of the process. And to the extent that we're feeling pressure to be moving fast on this, it could have gone a different way. And I want to move fast if this does not pass. I want to move as fast as possible towards the right site plan for the site.
Anyone else? Roll. Sorry.
I want to share Steve's sentiment that if this site plan were to fail, I will be available at earliest convenience tomorrow and anytime moving forward to work on this site plan to make it better.
Are we able to schedule joint meetings?
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, we've held them with we've held them with the school board before. So, yeah, we just post an agenda, says joint work session, or, yeah, it'd be a work session. Date, time, place.
And a question
An
for,
agenda item.
another question for staff, or did they answer your question enough for you?
Yeah,
We can do that, yeah.
I mean, I would have been leaning more towards tabling and having a joint discussion, but with this vote, I would strongly hope that we can schedule a joint work session with the school board to get through it.
I'm with you. I mean, I thought long and hard about tabling. I think this is actually the fastest way, because this way we really can get down to a joint meeting, looking at the site plan and designing it, as opposed to trying to nitpick and the process that needs to happen. I think it'll happen faster if we say no. So.
I have a question for staff then, and this is for John and Travis. I see that you're looking at something. I'll let you finish, but I do have a question before we vote. Oh, you're ready. Okay. So I'm not, and that wasn't critical. I just don't want to talk at you while you're reading something.
I think
So,
he's got his glasses on. Okay.
you know, given that we do have a duty to our code and to our constituents to evaluate the site plan according to the code, do you have any concerns that there are aspects of this that we haven't, fulfilled what the code asks of us? I want to make sure we're doing our job.
I think you have a lot of discretion about what you look at, so long as you look at what's in the city code and the comprehensive plan and the information given to you tonight, including what this school has provided. But your decision has to be it has to be, as we've discussed, reasonable. It can't be arbitrary and it can't be capricious. And if you feel like your reasons meet those standards, then you have justification for how you vote.
Yeah, I didn't even know what capricious was until you said it in that email. So
I had to look it up too.
Yeah. I appreciate that, and to be clear, I want to reiterate that even if this process hasn't been great, if they'd brought a good site plan, I would have been happy to move forward.
So
Yes.
I do not take this as staff's way to try and influence, but Councilmember Whittle just made a comment that
Yes.
made me lean over to John and do a quick sidebar. So, as a matter of order, if a motion to table is made and a second to follow before this vote is taken on the already pending motion, you vote on the motion to table first, and if that passes, done, you move on to the next agenda item.
That's not the motion, though.
Correct. What I'm explaining is the council rules say that if a council member wants to put a motion to table and it receives a second before this council votes on the pending motion, and that passes, motion is tabled, and we move on to the next item. Again, I am not trying to influence the way you guys vote. I am making sure you are informed of the council's rules of procedure.
Okay, then
And if-
there's, now just a minute, there's a motion and a second on the table. Are you talking about if this would not pass, if somebody,
No.
No.
no,
We
okay.
got it.
how does the table fit in then?
We got it.
All right,
I think-
I understand
Alright.
what was, yes. Yeah.
Basically, I think that Travis wanted to make sure we knew we could table it still, that just because there's a
Okay.
motion, and
Correct.
is that?
Okay.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
That would require two.
We understand that, Travis, thank you.
all right, that sounds good. You ready to vote?
Like you said, I try and stay out of policy, but I wanted to make sure.
I just
it was
wanted to be
understood.
clear.
Thank you.
Okay, roll call.
Chisel.
Aye.
Zittergruen.
No.
Whittle.
Can we move to others?
Sorry.
Come back?
Um,
No,
Council
okay,
rules have a certain
No.
order.
okay.
No.
Neal.
No.
Parker.
Aye.
Miss Linich.
No.
Olson.
No.
Okay. Motion failed. What is the next? What is the next? How do we proceed?
Okay. So, the applicant can either submit a new application, does have to be substantially, and I'm using air quotes because we don't know, there's no exact definition to what substantially different is. And then resubmit that. Then, also to point out, we are in a unique situation that this is a November post-election. So this motion, or excuse me, the applicant could potentially resubmit, that's how you do it, right? Resubmit the same plan, potentially, after January 1st, in which the council, our rules of procedure say if a new council takes seat, as Kristen Olson will be off and have a replacement, as well as Mayor Borowski, then this council can consider the same action item. Follow? So it can either be a new application submitted with some differences, or the same application could be presented again after January 1, which would have a different council makeup of one council member and the mayor. John's pointing out, so you're talking the motion to reconsider? Okay, and as a reminder, so, and this is, should the school members lobby council members and talk to you? So those on the presiding side, so of those that voted no, within the next two council meetings, one of you could motion to reconsider, and the second can be anyone. The second can be somebody that voted yes. Now, I'm not a math expert, but I know there were 5 votes in the negative, so the second to reconsider should probably be somebody that voted no as well. But a motion to reconsider could be made at the next 2 council meetings if one of the members that voted no asks for it on the agenda, and does a motion to reconsider to start the discussion again.
Well,
That would have to
one
be
of
the
the-
same site plan, right?
Correct.
Right, same thing,
Correct.
yep.
but there needs to be discussion and communication
Yes.
between the council and the school about that site plan. Even if it's the same, maybe
Maybe they
it's
should
the.
email us now.
No, I'm serious. You gotta really, I know you're flippant, but you just have to be serious. I know.
I think in all seriousness, 100%, you've got a council that wants to see a downtown school built in the best interest of Decorah. We are here, we are willing to work overtime, so work with us. We're not trying to be impossible. We want agreed upon promises that were made and a site that works in the best interest of walking and biking and traffic safety.
Okay,
My decision was driven by hearing compelling arguments on both sides. This is really just this difficult vote to make, but I would like to move as fast as we can to fix certain elements, which I don't think that there are a lot, to move forward on this, because I know that we want to get a new school built as fast as possible. So I think a lot of it looks great. There's just some sticking points that I think that we can work and get fixed and move forward on.
so everybody's clear that it would take 2 council people that voted no.
Technically
tell me?
only one, but if it's, it's
Okay.
not gonna change the outcome if
Okay,
it's only
but they
one.
could bring it to either one of the next, well, that's in December.
Correct. Either
Could
one of the
come
next
back in
two
December.
has a motion to reconsider. And again, 2 council members need to tell me to at least put it on the agenda.
Okay,
Or it could come back post-January 1 as a
Okay.
resubmittal
Okay.
of the same site plan. Alternatively, the school, the applicant could submit a new site plan.
okay, and that's clear.
Yeah, I also want to give one more caveat. I think Travis has a really good perspective of where council sits. He's easier to reach than 7 different council members. And again, I would say, reach out to Travis to start to look at how this could be different.
And in case it's not obvious, if they're considering submitting the same site plan after January 1, there'll only be one person that changes over that has a vote on this. The mayor doesn't vote on it, so it's just one person, so just want you to be aware of that.
Okay, as long as we understand. I guess my question then, moving forward, is on number 9. Is that with the current vote?
Are we moving on to item 9 then? Or are you still holding up?
No, I was moving on to number 9.
I forgot we
I'm
had
hoping you're
more.
gonna have discussion, because I'm going to the restroom. Okay. Huh? Yeah.
This would be a good one to table since there's nothing going on until we know what's going on.
Okay,
Except there is a time limit on this. Now, it is a bit ambiguous,
Okay.
excuse me. I put the syllable in the wrong, I went to public school, don't be mean to me.
I mean,
Ambiguous. That fell short on comedic relief again.
I do think it's worth discussing.
So what is the timeline if we would just table this?
So you need to have action within 30 days of the filing of the findings of fact. Right, John?
Correct.
So there is 2 camps of thought on this. One is when the action is taken, that's when the findings of fact are created. But the other camp is when the minutes are approved, that's the start of the timer for the creation of the findings of fact. I'll be honest, I'm more the latter camp. That's within 30 days of the minutes approval. But I just want council to understand there is a time limit to this.
So
what is your
when
camp?
do the minutes, when were they or will they be approved?
So they should be approved at the first meeting in December, which I believe is the 3rd? Is that? Yes,
do-
3rd.
I do think, even though the meeting is long, that there is some value in us discussing the variance, the writ of, how do you say the word?
Certiorari.
The writ of certiorari. Only insofar as if there's a redesign, it's important to know how council is thinking about that, right? I mean, especially in thinking about like parking on a right of way.
So on the right of way would be different than if we're moving on to item 9, the discussion there. So that would be variance number 3 that was granted, which allowed for parking up to the property line. So
Right.
the writ of certiorari would be if the council wanted to file on that, or at least if you want to discuss that you wanted to keep that option open because that's an issue you take as a variance granted. Now, this is a separate discussion than the site plan. If you don't believe the applicant met the requirements for that or any of the other 3 variances that were granted, then there is some value in discussing that because the council does have, like I said, 30 days from December 3rd to potentially file.
And one of the questions, if I'm remembering from John's email, is literally to consider like, did the site drive it or was it just a want? Correct?
Well, maybe I understand what you're getting at.
I'll open up the email and then I'll be more articulate.
You might be talking about the standards that are both in the city code and the new state code.
The questions to consider, yeah.
Yeah, the questions consider because prior to July 1st, 2025, there was one standard for all variances, whether it was a use variance or a dimensional variance. Then the legislature amended Iowa Code Chapter 414 and provided that there is a separate, and I would say a lower standard for dimensional variances. But when I say lower standard, doesn't mean there isn't still a standard. There is. The prior Iowa Supreme Court opinions, I would say, made it extremely difficult to get a use variance or to get any variance granted. But then the legislature kind of took the challenge and said, okay, we're going to keep the higher standard. We're not going to touch the Supreme Court's opinion about use variances, but dimensional variances, we're going to lower the bar a little bit. Now, with that said, because it's so new, we don't have any court cases to help us interpret it, so we just have the plain language of the statute. And I think what you're getting to, Emily, maybe is the 3 factors to consider are there practical difficulties to the property owner in making a beneficial use of the property? And the property owner must prove that the practical difficulties faced are unique to the property at issue and not self-created. And there's some additional language in the amended statute, but I think those are the 2 kind of critical fighting issues.
And I think it was the self-created, that is what I was trying to hone in on.
Okay.
Right? That some of these, I think, were self-created, not dictated by the way the property is.
So I just want to interject and say that we haven't done background on this, and not that we necessarily need to, because or as part of any background that we do here, could you help me understand why, given the choice to decline the site plan, this isn't sort of redundant or unnecessary?
That would be my question
I'll
as
jump
well.
in there. Variances granted are valid for 2 years. And so the site plan, and this is something we didn't get into great detail on the previous discussion. So the site plan approval is only valid for 180 days, of which by then you need to have had a building permit pulled. Well, we didn't go into great detail with this, but should the 28E agreement thing not be resolved, and that's September 2026 timeline still in there, then the site plan lapses with 180 days from approval, and we got to do this over again. So that's another consideration, that that site plan approval valid for 180 days, at which you must have a building permit pulled by then. These variances are valid for up to 2 years. And then if no action is taken to implement these variances granted, then they fall off.
So I think what you're saying is they could create a new site plan and still use these variances. And so if we're not
Correct.
okay with these variances, we should make a point to say, these, we do not think they met the threshold?
Correct. They
Okay.
do not meet, so the dimensional variances, Please to spare for everyone in the room. These are all available in my background notes in the council packet as well. That's file 001B. But so a regular variance, anything that's not a dimensional, there's 4 criteria listed there. For a dimensional variances, there are 3. 3, as John noted, slightly lower threshold, but still a threshold there. For any of the variances, dimensional means there's a number assigned to it. You know, the 40-foot setback within, from the property line, the 10-foot from the property line for the parking. Those variances are, and even the fence height of 10 foot versus 8 for the protected measures fence. So all of those are dimensional and have that lower threshold. The accessory building in a yard other than the front yard, that would be a use variance. So that's that first threshold that has 4 criteria that need to be met.
Okay, so just for clarification, for the 40 feet, the school printable structure less than 40 feet from the property line, that is specific to a building, not just that they can now build less than 40 feet anywhere on site, correct? So does this variance allow them with a new site plan to impede on that setback anywhere on site?
The motion that was made and approved by Board of Adjustment was to allow 844 square feet of encroachment within that area. Now, with that being said, they had this illustration that showed the area associated with the corner in the southwest.
That southwest corner.
That's that square footage, which I did notice the label on, I think it's page 2, says 712. That's where I pulled that number from before.
So does that variance mean anywhere on site or just in that specific location if the building goes there?
John, I'd ask you, one could argue it says 844 square feet.
Yeah, I would maybe differ a little bit, and I'm open to have my mind changed, but I think this variance is specific to this site plan because it's the information that the Board of Adjustment had in front of them. Now, if there was a minor change to the site plan, and again, that's always subjective, I think it would still stand. But I just think about, you know, if they didn't have to resubmit a site plan and that variance stood, they could submit a site plan where the building's on a completely different side, and that may change the perspective of the Board of Adjustment as far as the reasonableness and whether the variance request actually met the appropriate standard. So I would take the position that I'd really want to look closely if this plan changed substantially, whether they would have to submit a whole new set of variance requests.
John, I want to make sure I understand you, John. So the scenario in which we maybe will have wished that we did this is if one of the council members who voted no decides to move to reconsider, another council member who voted no ends up joining them, and they end up passing this site plan as it is before December 31st, then these variances are still intact and work, right?
Right. If you've missed the deadline to file that appeal, that's a hard and fast deadline, and you're stuck with these variances that were granted.
Then if I go ahead, Travis, you want to say?
I was going to say, or theoretically, since again, after January 1, it's a new council, one new council member and a new mayor, the same site plan can come up anytime next year or within the next 2 years, and it's still valid.
I see. That's helpful to hear. Then you know, I was one of the council members who just asked for discussion. I want to make sure I understand this process pretty well. In general, like, I don't want to sit here and nitpick the work of an independent board, but I do want to take advantage of the fact that Iowa law allows us to get just a check of our process. And this is also true for decisions council makes. Iowa law often allows folks to check on our decisions, like the site plan decision we just made. They allow that to be, you know, looked at a district court level, and this is the same process. That said, like, I kind of feel like, given that that we just voted down the site plan, I don't know if it's a great use of city resources to also try to evacuate these variances or have them considered by district court. My inclination is not to do this.
I mean, mine is except for the third one. That's the one I worry the most about, only because I think it's important. Parking was an issue. We obviously voted the site plan down because we didn't want parking pushed to the sidewalk, and we didn't want parking in our right-of-way. So I guess I'm a little.
That's not why we voted down the site plan.
No, it's not why we voted down the site plan, but we.
Isn't that something that you can be discussing when you're discussing now with the site plan?
Yes.
So I guess I would agree with Steve's consideration.
You don't think it's important to get these variances clarified one way or the other, though, prior to?
No, I think Steve's probably right. I mean, these weren't the reasons we voted on the site plan, so they wouldn't carry over.
Right.
So.
I guess what I'm saying is
They do carry over.
if this site plan passes as is because council members change their mind or the council changes, then these variances are clearly part of what those council members who change their mind or the change council are okay with. And I say, for me, it doesn't make sense to spend legal money chasing that. I would rather trust my colleagues who may or may not change their mind. That's part of the process to do that. If we had affirmed the site plan, I would encourage us to reconsider some of these variances because frankly, I don't think that especially the parking one would survive district court scrutiny based on my basic reading. I just feel as if that is too much of a reach.
I understand. I
Yep, I do understand.
fiscal
All right.
responsibility.
Do you?
Yeah, I just don't want to pay John to do this.
Do we?
I'm just kidding.
Do we need to? But it says possible action. Do we have to do any action?
You don't
Okay.
have to, nope.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, public hearing on proposal to enter into a sewer revenue loan disbursement agreement. Can you get background on that, please?
Yes, so I'll give background on items 10 and 11, 10 being the public hearing, and 11's the potential actionable item of
Thank you to
council.
everybody who came tonight. Sorry, Travis.
Oh, you're good. I tried to wave.
Yeah.
But, so again, 10's public hearing, 11's actionable. So public hearings required prior to the city's authorization of debts. This public hearing was set at our November 3rd meeting. No comments or objections have been received at this time. The proposed sewer revenue bonds will be used to cover the awarded wastewater treatment plant upgrade project and bond closing costs. Our current rates are sufficient to cover the debt payment as reviewed by our financial advisor. These are not general obligation bonds. I want to be very clear about this. So they are not paid with property taxes. The city budgeted $5 million in fiscal '26 for bond revenues to cover an estimated 5,000 project costs. So just procedurally, we'll do a budget amendment to show additional revenues to cover the expenses.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to the item put forth? Well, I can't see on the, can you take that down so I can see the, there we go.
Does that help? Can you see that?
I can see that sort of, I see a hand there, but I'm not sure what the hand's for.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing. Resolution authorizing and approving a loan and disbursement agreement and providing for the issuance and securing the payment of $5,152,000 sewer revenue bonds, Series 2025.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved by Chisel, seconded by Zittigron. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Chisel?
Aye.
Zittergruen?
Aye.
Whittle?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Parker?
Aye.
Miss Linich?
Aye.
Olson?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Mike's not here, and other staff aren't here, but this is yet another step in just
is here.
Oh, there you are.
He's camouflaged
Hey, Mike.
back there in the
Sorry,
plan.
yeah, you just blend right in.
We've got-
To you and to all the staff who made this process come to fruition, like this is such a tremendous generational investment for our community. And thank you very much.
Not only that, for keeping the other stuff going for as long as you have to get us to this point. Appreciate that, Mike. Great
So-
work, guys.
Not interested in delaying this and making this any longer than possible, but it is
What?
important to note. So I was just talking with a colleague in Independence that they are about to undertake a wastewater treatment plant project that has, I think it's been online shorter time than our plant. And they are looking at a $50 million wastewater treatment plant upgrade
Saw that.
and replacement of their stuff.
Who was
so,
that?
Independence.
Wow.
Yep.
Saw that.
Yeah, so they're looking at rate increases of 15%, 15% year 2, another 12 year 3, and 10 year 4. So
If we don't say it enough.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you,
That's
thank
right.
you.
I read that in the
Our
paper.
staff is awesome.
Okay. Consider an ordinance amending City Code Section 10.52.270 regarding parking and semi-trailers or semi-tractors. First reading.
So this proposed ordinance is a result of the discussion at the November 3rd meeting regarding semi-trailer parking on city streets. Primarily, we were talking about Military Boulevard. Consensus of the council was for staff to draft an ordinance that would allow for council to establish certain areas to authorize parking, but to keep the general citywide prohibition. The proposed ordinance prohibits parking citywide except for loading and unloading with a time limit of 1 hour, which is current, but allows council to authorize areas of parking by resolution. And in addition to authorizing, the council would be able to require a permit to park. And these permits could be issued by adjacent businesses or property owners if that was included in the resolution. So this is the framework, and then a resolution would have to follow.
Can I ask a question before we begin any discussion? Is there anything urgent about this? Because my inclination is to table unless there's a pressing reason to pass or discuss this tonight. I think it deserves some discussion, and I'm not sure if a lot of us want to discuss it the way maybe it deserves.
The one thing that it does operationally is if frost gets really deep in the ground and the street department needs to drive posts into the ground, they can do it. It just becomes a little bit trickier. Those posts tend to bend a bit when they're trying to drive those into frost.
Is this much different than what we had discussed or asked to be brought forward?
I wonder if council is going to be inclined to have discussion in particular about permits and things with fees. And I do think that that's a discussion worth having. I'm probably the only one who wants to stay here till 10 o'clock talking about semi-parking.
I'm going to take the jacket off if we stay till 10. It's getting
Well,
warm.
May take more than that off.
That was sarcasm. I
Okay.
don't want to stay
Okay,
here
All right,
to talk about
stop that
semi-parking.
now.
See, it's the heat. It's
All right,
affecting me.
so,
There is we could pass the first reading and we would get to the second.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
All right.
So
I'd
we
move for
could-
approval of the first reading.
thank you.
Second.
Motion made by Chisel, seconded by Olson to approve the first reading. Roll call?
Aye.
Chisel, Olson,
Aye.
Whittle,
Aye.
Neal,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Miscellaneous.
Aye.
Zittergren.
First reading passed.
Now, if anybody has any comments, feel free. We've got discussion on the second.
Board and commission vacancies, we still have one vacancy on the Decorah Human Rights Commission and one vacancy on the tree board. Okay? Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Stay kind.